right, we are
That's
here.
so beautiful.
We are ready. We're ready to go. The Barons Club podcast is finally here after months and months of delays and trying to figure out schedules and stuff. We're finally here. Gilliman, Sam, and Enko are here, and of course, a special guest, MightyTeapot. And we have the perfect subject to bring this podcast for you guys today. Not only are we discussing the Mystic Coin, recent changes, the reward structure, but the most important topic: why do all these changes matter in the outlook of the economy, and why is it that it's done in such a way? Because let's be honest, there's been a lot of emotion, right? Out of this entire update. We've seen the Reddit threads, we've seen countless posts, and while I can, we can understand the context of all of that and, seeing it from the other people's perspective, the one thing which is obviously the worst part of it is why the change is done in a way, and what does it do to the economy? So these will be most of the topics, and then we can definitely get into the semantics of semantics at the end. But I feel like talking about the economy part is the most, probably most important topic about this, because as amazing and robust as the Guild Wars 2 economy can be compared to most MMOs, I always find it that because of the way it's set up, and this is mostly to do with the item, the way the items and materials drop in the game, far more than gold. Raw gold is very low in drop rate. It almost never drops. The issue with this is what kind of creates these kind of reward structures. And funny enough, and this will probably be brought up later, Sam, you have a video on this. Teapot, you have a video sort of covering this, but it's in a more, it also covers the grand perspective of outlook for End of Dragons and beyond. So definitely things to reference up later in the podcast. But gentlemen, your takes, your intros, whoever wants to go first, feel free. What do you guys feel about the post?
Or the top left.
The Reddit post. You know what? You could go about the reward change post, the original post from ANET about changing the structure, and then the clarification post that came after regarding like just the drop rates and stuff. You could do it that way. Go ahead.
I mean, if I was going to give a take on it, I'm a pleb, non-economist. I don't really see it as that impactful, really, to the overall reward ecosystem of the game. The Mystic Coins from Fractal CMs were not really that expensive. I think like the bigger change would actually be, were not that relevant, rather. There weren't that many, right? There were only like 7% from CMs. Honestly, a lot less than that, because within that 7% that aren't from login rewards, it's also other really common sources like the anomaly and stuff. So realistically, that's not the end of the world. It's not going to change much. Certainly changing the discounted clovers, it makes the clovers a lot more of a sink, right? Like, I think someone did the numbers on this very recently, actually. Like, the amount of discount you get right now is really good on Mystic Clovers when you make them using the discounted recipes. After the change, adding in an extra Mystic Coin to the recipe actually makes it significantly worse, significantly less of a discount, so not as much good value from that. So I'd say that's kind of the change that's you might notice actually a little bit more, is getting these discounted clovers, like certainly over time. But from an overall perspective, I don't think it's really the end of the world. I think the reward structure, all they did there was just try to make it simpler, make it streamlined across all game modes, and pretty much just guarantee that people were going to play strikes. I don't think they were like, oh wow, there's too much stuff going on here. They were like, yeah, we're going to drain some of the stuff out of the economy, and we're going to guarantee that people play strikes, because now this is going to be your go-to Mystic Coin source. And they really want strikes to work really well, and Mystic Coins are a very effective way to get players to engage with content, because they're such a rare item and such an important item in basically literally everything you could possibly want in the end game. So that's my take.
Okay. Very good one.
Right.
All right.
I guess my turn then?
Yeah, sure.
We'll go in order. All right, sure. So I already made a video on that topic, and I brought up some points that will probably be discussed later on this podcast. And that was that we basically saw that happen before when the Dungeons rewards got a nerf, because the idea was to move the player base from one game mode to another. So when we had HET and then POF, we needed to move people from dungeons to fractal/raids, and then strike missions happen, and we now need to move people from fractal/raids to strike missions. And that's what Teapot said. Now we are going to have less mystic coins from fractals, and these mystic coins are going to be easily obtainable from doing the strike missions. And as we also have a change in the recipe, the discounted recipe, the people who will want to get their clovers for legendaries are going to want to get all of them, because before, if you just got some discounted ones and forged some, you would get your legendary clovers for a good price. And now you're going to want to do everything via the discounted ones. Basically, over a period of 3 weeks, I think, you can get almost all the clovers you need without doing anything other than basic PvE. Like, you don't need to do PvP, you don't need to do War vs. World. It's 25 a week, if I'm not mistaken. Guys, tell me if
Yes, 25 total.
25, yeah.
For me, it's 25 a week, so every 3 weeks, you almost have enough clovers.
Big.
Like, you don't need to gamble anymore. You can just set out, 3 weeks, you do your exploration, you get the clovers, you're good. And basically what RNN wants to do is to make legendaries achievable for players, because players need a goal, so easy to obtain legendaries. RNN needs good metrics, so people playing the new content they're releasing, aka the strike missions. And at the end of the day, that's going to make the casuals happy, and they make up 85 to 90% of the game population, I'd say. Like the 10-15% that remains are like hardcore War vs. War players, hardcore PvP players, and hardcore PvE players. So that should be about it.
7 of those.
Yeah. In my opinion, it's not bad, because it literally ticks all the boxes that the internet wants to have ticked. So that's the take I'll start with, and then we can discuss.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mystic Coins, part of the reason why I think they're reducing the direct source of Mystic Coins and trying to get more clover drops, ANET has actually never really liked us trading outside the trading post. Like, they actually don't like the external trading. And since Mystic Coins are like one of the main currencies, this kind of actually solves or pushes for a resolution for a lot of things and solves a lot of current problems. So they are trying to make Mystic Clovers look like as more of a direct reward, because if you think about it, Mystic Coins, while tradable, their only actual use in game, like besides trading with other people, the actual only use for them in game is to make legendaries. Like, you make Mystic Clovers with them, and then it's used in recipes for a lot of the legendary components. Like, there really is no other use for them. So, but people started using them for external trading, so lowering the amount actually, in looking at some of the numbers, I'm not even sure how much it actually lowers if you're actually doing it, but dropping it from some common content helps out with that. It kind of pushes people away from the Mystic Coins. It's actually one of the reasons why I've always been saying ectos are a better currency. But yeah, like adding rewards to the new strikes, they obviously do want us to go do the new content, like, because fractals have been some of the most profitable in-game content in the game for like how fast you could do them. Like, you could do a full set of CNs and T4s in under an hour, like with the right team, and the amount of gold you get for that beats out any other in-game content. So they're kind of trying to spread it out the rewards a little bit. Like, this doesn't change if you were doing fractals because you like to do fractals. This doesn't change anything for you. It does lower your reward, but then maybe it'll also encourage you to go do the new strikes. I mean, we can get Mystic Clovers from raids now, which is, I don't know if that's a positive for current raiders, because like I'm not really sure how many of them actually care about legendaries. But like being able to trade our magnetite shards for clovers now, hey, at least we have a new use for it. Because once you get all the drops you can from raids, the only thing you could do with your magnetite shards is basically trade them for ghostly infusions and trade those. So this actually does give us another usage for them. As far as how this is going to affect Mystic Coin prices, like they said, 93% of Mystic Coins come from login rewards, and then the rest is from the other sources. So for those of you guys that don't know, other sources for Mystic Coins in game, you got the Mystic Forger Daily, you got the Leyline Anomaly, which can be done every day. You can get them from Fractal Chests, you got them from CMs, which you won't anymore, and then you get some from World vs. World, and then after EUD comes out, you get them from strikes. So the change in this, someone wrote up a chart before where the daily quantity was 8.8 a day that could be generated by a single player versus 1.7 after the change, but this is also done with estimates for Mystic Coin generation. But interesting with Solar's post, he actually talked about the actual drop rates for them, like how many you actually get, and I think he said it was what
1.9 or something. I think
92.
1.92 for dailies.
Yeah.
So the thing is, so it's like, while we're losing for an individual player who's doing everything they can to make Mystic Clovers or make Mystic Coins in the game, you will individually see as a drop. But because a lot more people are probably going to be doing strikes than we're doing fractal CMs, overall in the economy, we're probably going to have a pretty hefty increase in Mystic Coin generation. So I would actually expect the prices to drop. So that a little bit of that discourages it being used as a currency for external TP trading, because it makes it more volatile, which makes it not as a reliable currency to use. But it also allows everybody to actually use it for its in-game purpose of making legendaries. So if you're going to make every legendary, every Gen 3 legendary, and we use like the current existing recipes, you're going to need around probably around 7,000 just to make the clovers, and probably another 2,000 after that, if depending on if they go the Mystic Tribute route or the other route for Gen 1 versus Gen 2. So how many people are actually making one of every legendary though? It's not a lot. So they are really trying to balance this out a little bit, but economy-wise, I think it'll help the Mystic Coin market be a little more healthy where it should be. I do think the concern though is that people are saying that they're taking rewards from one content to give it to another because they're trying to push it to us, and they're trying to kill the other content. I actually think fractals will still be pretty rewarding for the amount of time they take, especially for the better players. But I do think some people probably do want to address that they're taking stuff out, and then is this the same thing what they did with Dungeons when ANET originally kind of nerfed them and Dungeons died a little bit? So we'll have to see how that plays out. But it's all going to depend on how well the strikes actually turn out.
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully the strikes and the later on strike CMs actually work out well.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, months from now, it's actually okay because MCs before, let's rewind the clock, let's say 2019, right? MCs were normally starting to peak around a gold 30, gold 40, slowly rising up to a gold 50. They were holding that range of price. It's obviously MCs are way more volatile, so a gold 20 to a gold 40 in a couple of months it's standard with this kind of item. And it went over 2 gold because of a certain printing machine sometime in the game later. And naturally it shouldn't have been at that price, right? And then after that printing machine was gone and the buy orders were taken away, Castellano was pretty much taken out of the game, for now at least. They slowly still stayed at 2 gold, and then eventually that drop off started to happen where naturally their price point, it's getting close to that price point where they should be at, right? And this change I feel like finally gets it there, back again, at around the gold 50, a gold 60. Which, yeah, I mean, it's gonna maybe suck for higher end trades because now with infusions or multiple legendaries or things like that, you're now having to put up a bit more MCs to cover those trades. So maybe a small inconvenience. But in general, it in some way it does at least stabilize the currency for better, right? I don't think it'll be ever as good as Ectos, but with the fact that Gen 3s, if they even take the recipes of Gen 2s, so that's 2 sets of clover or 2 sets of MCs that you need, right? The one for the clovers and then just a full stack for the tribute. Should in the long run help get it to that price point where it's okay. It's in that 1 gold 50, 1 gold 60. I mean, I'm not gonna say it doesn't suck, because it does suck that it's been taken out of challenging, or the focus is, yeah, sure, fractals are still one of the most profitable things in the game. by far, when it comes to just playing in-game content. No outside interference, no spreadsheets, no salvaging, just playing the game. Fractals by far, right? But you know, I do see the issue here, right? Is, you know, it was done in dungeons, and the patterns being slowly repeated here. Fractals to raids, raids to strikes in some way. Even with the spread out of currency exchange, which I feel like, by the way, spirit shards, we'll have to discuss it in a bit. You know, it might not be as good as you think in the long run, because now you also have to go out and farm spirit shards, and there's only very few places in the game that can really generate that for you in terms of farming. But you know, I see the pattern, and it's, yeah, they've taken out of the challenging mode, right? And that's the issue. The challenge mode was more of, yeah, it's fun content to do if you're into that. You want to kind of get a little bit of a nice challenge in there, right? CMs. And while that bonus is not like the be-all end-all reason for maybe, you know, some of the people who are doing CMs, it's more like a bonus for them. You know, I can understand the anger. Is more of like, you know, you want to do challenging content, you get rewarded in some way for challenging content, and now it's heavily just been favored to be pushed into the strikes, because that is the new thing that you got to go after. And while the rewards aren't being ignored in the other game modes, yeah, it's significantly in favor of strikes, right? And that again is going to produce the healthy amount of MCs, which get us there. But in the context of the emotion of what is being done, that is a conundrum on its own. Is it going to be the be-all end-all? No, it's not. Yeah, economy, I think this is better for it in the long run. But it goes back to the whole point, right? Is this change, while it's not maybe significant amount of MCs in CMs compared to obviously alt accounts. I mean, we have one person right here who has a good amount of them to begin with. He knows very well the power of alts, right? The issue goes back to the item and the way that items are generated in the game, right? It's mainly through that items, materials, and very rarely gold. And because of that, it's hard to alter any sort of change. People are making suggestions like, can we do fractal encryptions? Give us a bonus of fractal encryptions. And it's actually not as simple as you think, because a bonus of fractal encryptions in replace of MCs affects that item's market, and there is a very good market there as well, right? It will drop the price down of encryptions, and you'll see the effect after a couple of weeks. So it's very hard to take something from a game mode in Guild Wars 2 and replace something somewhat better or as similar standard, because anything you do in this game's economy, while it is a strong economy, it has that weakness of the reward structure. So with that being said, what would you think are some suggestions or some ways balancing that out, right? In terms of overall reward structure for those 3 game modes. Do you think the 2 blobs, the 2 spirit shards, is it 2 mystic coins is fair for that mystic clover? You know, I don't see a lot of players maybe are able to continue 3 game modes during the week. I mean, that's through all those spirit shards. You know, I'm sure there's people with thousands of them, but that can easily go out with those 3 game modes, especially the other 2. If you do fractals and raids just to keep grinding that out, if after a few months you will feel the significant loss of your spirit shards.
If you want to fix this situation, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, okay, then I'll go first.
Go,
and you go second.
go.
Okay, I wanted to play devil's advocate for a hot second. Naturally, this is not my opinion, but I think it needs to be stated on the podcast for us to move forward. And you kind of hinted at it. Is that if your only reason to play a game mode and to call yourself as being a hardcore player of that game mode, or say that you pertain to that game mode's community, is that you're being rewarded for your gameplay, then something is wrong. Because the reward shouldn't necessarily be materialistic in the form of something that you can use in the game, because technically this is a game, and the reward is supposed to be the fun you're having. For instance, I personally never cared about the change in the dungeon's rewards beyond maybe the first 3 days. I was like, okay, fuck, no money. Sure. But then I was like, okay, I can still spend the evening with the boys on TeamSpeak, clearing dungeons, talking shit, and drinking alcohol. And that was pretty much the whole thing I was doing in dungeons anyways. And I didn't care for the reward that there was in dungeons. Like the extra few gold, I didn't care about it. The real fun was doing it with the friends. And if you're saying that you're into some hardcore gameplay, your real fun is being better than what you did before, or creating a new strat, or adapting a strat to different classes, or whatever you might want to do. Like, the rewards shouldn't be your sole reason to play a game mode, otherwise you're gonna either be burnt out, or at some point you're gonna need to branch out into something else. Like maybe take a break and go to War vs. World. So I think that really we like players who are solely focusing on that small Mystic Coin loss are people who weren't exactly fractal hardcore runners or real challenge mode enjoyers, and they will do the strikes just fine. Like they will transition to the next big thing without any issue. It's just like the people farming a map. New map comes out with a living story, you transition to the new map. You didn't like the previous map. You like the rewards.
Yeah, so
but
quick follow-up to that.
Let me debate here though, because honestly, I think that's missing the point. Like, that's not what people are actually upset about, is it though? Like the rewards, yeah, obviously it kind of sucks. But it was the same thing with dungeons. It was what that change actually represented, and this is particularly true. This is particularly true with fractals and with the hardcore scene now, because like over the past kind of year, few years or so, we've seen a lot of things that have kind of gone against the hardcore scene. Stuff like build templates being a bit crappy, balancing being pretty poor. And so on. Then you have like the build template, the build swapping saga rather. Now you have this going on here as well. There have been a lot of changes that have almost exclusively affected the hardcore scene, right? And seem very arbitrary, right? A lot of decisions have been made in the game that haven't considered these players at all, and this is just another kind of like another one in the line of those changes. That's why people are upset about this. Again, it's about what it represents. Same thing with dungeons, right? Do you think that the Dungeoneer players were like, oh man, like these things suck right now, like wow, they're not fun anymore? Nah, that's not it. It was the subtext, right? It was the fact that, oh, ANET was saying, we don't want you to play that anymore. We want you to go play fractals. We want you to go play raids. Like, you that content you like, we don't want you to play it. Go play this, right? That's the underlying sentiment that people are upset about, and why it's why people find it frustrating. To be honest, I think that isn't very well expressed by the community. People tended to not say that. They tended to fixate very heavily, like, oh, I can't believe ANET's doing this. They're killing fractals, right? Like, and so on and so on. But that's not exactly what they mean. I think what they actually mean is more like the approach ArenaNet has to managing multiple game modes, which I think is somewhat justified to an extent. And I really want to talk about something that MM brought up, which is this idea that you have challenging content. This is another thing that I think people were really upset about. I think this is more valid even than the redistribution of rewards to other game modes to get people to play it. Content that is easier being more rewarding than content being hard it's a problem for a number of reasons. And the first one is that it kind of like feels bad, right? You're like, oh wow, I'm gonna do my daily tier 4s. And you go do CMs and you get less for doing something that's way harder than tier 4s. That's a little weird, right? It's a little bit unusual. I think that it doesn't necessarily feel good. Like, oh, I'm gonna step up my gameplay to the next level and burn these CMs. Then you get less. All right, interesting. But I think it also creates this player perception around this content, even if it's only a small nerf, that this content isn't worth doing anymore. Perfect example is dungeons, right? If you ask most players and you said, hey, do you think dungeons are good gold per hour? They'd say no, they got nerfed. Actually not true. Dungeons are some of the highest gold per hour in the game, if they're done really, really efficiently. I was talking with Grimjack and some of the guys on NA, and they say that it can go up to actually potentially 70 gold an hour if you're doing dungeons extremely efficiently. Using proper strategies, speedrunning techniques, and so on. So it's not like they're actually bad, they're actually very good. But the player perception has shifted, and that's kind of killed the content, right? And I think players are worried about that happening with challenge modes, which is very, very, which is a little bit dangerous. And then to kind of like round this thing out before I let someone else kind of leap in and pounce on this topic, then you have to look at ANET's perspective, because from ANET's perspective, the challenge modes are more rewarding because they have stuff like unstable fractal essence, right? Which allows you to get unique rewards. And this is where things get a little bit weird, right? Because rewards in Guild Wars 2 are not just gold. There are also unique skins, right? Quality of life, stuff like Fractal God, like long-term stuff. And this is what ArenaNet's valuing. They're looking at account value, account worth, and just account utility, not just liquid gold, whereas the players only look at liquid gold. And I think the players are wrong here. I think ArenaNet is right to do this. I think that Guild Wars 2 is a very different game in the way it operates and the way it rewards you as a player. And I think that, the player base perceives this incorrectly. They'll look at something that doesn't give a lot of gold and go, this isn't rewarding. But if you actually look at your account value, it's going to be extremely rewarding. I'd say the best thing would be raids, right? Like, let's suppose, you've got a decent group. You're going to do a raid full clear in, let's say, 4 hours, right? How much gold do you get from that? Like, 80 gold, that sort of region, right? Sell all your exotics, sell all the loot, right? And all the liquid gold you get from killing the bosses. All right, not bad. So it's, 20 gold an hour. That's not great compared to a lot of other methods. Even open world farming, you can kind of get that number there. But what you won't get is the fact that you probably got maybe, let's say, 4 ascended items, and you got progress towards your legendary armor, right? And that in and of itself has a value. Magnetite shards, gating crystals, unstable fractal essences, ascended gear, right? Unique skins. That actually has a value in the context of Guild Wars 2. And it's a tough problem for ArenaNet to crack it, because I don't think this perception is ever going to change from the player base's perspective, to be honest. But I don't necessarily think that it's wrong the way ArenaNet is going about doing this.
Yeah, I want to jump in and say before you jump in, Enko, the issue here is that rewards, the way that reward structure is set up, right, is mostly in most games, right, and this is partly why other games, their inflation is just through the roof, right? Because the reward structure is pretty simple. You do reward, you'll get items, but you also get rewarded the gold with those items, right? In Guild Wars 2, it's an extra step to actually get the gold, right? You get your exotics, your rares. Okay, now you actually have to do something to the exotics or rares, right? Either put them in the forge, try and gamble, use some sort of extraction on the upgrades in them, or just list them on the trading post straight up, right? So to get the gold itself is a second step in this game, right? It's not like other games where it's almost rewarded immediately in some ways. In this game, there's a couple extra steps that you have to take to get rewarded the gold. But I do agree on the take on as well account value, and this is why Enko, you should jump in after this, because a lot of the times the perception is I have no gold. I have 500 raw gold, 200 of liquid gold that's in the form of materials, items, and it's like I'm poor, basically, right? 500 gold and 200 gold in liquid materials is basically 700 gold. I'm poor. I have no money, right? But then when you ask the player, what's your account value? And the player responds with something like, oh, it's like maybe 90k, 100k, some of them even 300k, and it's like, you are far from poor. At 100k, 200k, you must have unlocked some legendaries, whether weapons, Gen 1s or Gen 2s. You must have unlocked some armor, whether it was WW, PvP, or PvE. You must have some sort of infusions or Blackline skins or dyes or minis or account upgrades, QOL, right, from the gem store. So a player who has 100,000 plus gold in account value, right? Yeah, sure, your buying power, right? Your purchasing power is maybe not that significant. You probably can't buy anything now. But to say you are poor is a huge misconception. This is a problem that it's just always there. It's hard to get someone to understand the picture of your account value is just as important, if not maybe more important, than your liquid gold. Liquid gold just determines what you can buy at any given point. It makes it easier, sure, if you have the gold to do something right now, right? If I have 5,000 gold, I can go buy this, right? I can just get whatever you want at 5,000 gold. 10,000, 20,000 makes it even easier to buy X amount of things. So purchasing power is powerful, but the problem is players don't look at their account value, and they don't realize that you already have a lot of QOL things. You already have a lot of items that you've put value into your account throughout time. Like you've gone through maybe 100, 200,000 gold, right? Yeah, sure, not all of it at once, but it's there. This misconception is one of the hardest things to try and get people to understand. And Enko, you know this because you've always also addressed the fact that, account value has to be just as important of valuing an account in the reward structure of the game as liquid gold rewards, right? Because that is being converted into pretty much lifetime, forever. It's bound to your account. You have it. It's done. Like it's one achievement that you have already unlocked.
All right, so let me go back to what Teapot was talking about. So I think the issue that a lot of the more hard community is dealing with is that a sense of neglect by ANET. Not like they see this as a sign that this game mode's going away. That's the problem. So like dungeons, when they took the rewards away, like as Sam was saying, like the dungeons are still there. People that enjoy dungeons for being dungeons could still do them. It's the same thing with fractals, but the problem is that a lot of people feel like, well, when ANET's doing this because they're trying to point us to other areas of the game, they're trying to point us to new content, it means that they're never going to touch this content again or add any future development to this content. In Dungeons, it is kind of like that, which is why it's being used as an example. Like, as far as I know, ANET still can't fix Dungeons, a lot of the problems in Dungeons, because everyone who made them is gone, and the coding is on it so weird that they're afraid they're just going to break it permanently if they try changing it. So I can understand the sentiment that some people might be worried that that's what's going to happen with Fractal. So let's say like you're not doing Fractal Reward, but because you actually like doing, you like speed clearing it, you like trying to get all the little details on it. But when they're pushing people to like, hey, stop doing this content because we're taking the carrot away, go do this content, then they feel like, well, the stuff I like to do in the game we can't do anymore, or there's never going to be future additions to it. Like I think that is probably a valid concern considering ANET's history on previous content. And Fractals itself, I don't think will die. I do wish that they would release more Fractals at a faster pace, but that's always been my issue with ANET. But the stuff is still there. And as far as a conversion, like I kind of wish instead of just making it, because right now you can do 2 Mystic Clovers a day, so 14 a week versus what they're changing to 10 a week. I honestly wish that they would just like take the Mystic Coins out of that, make it Fractal Rewards you can exchange for that. Like make it relics or something like that. Make it like 300 or 500 Fractal relics for a Mystic Clover or something like that, instead of throwing in other things you need in exchange for it. But hopefully the ANET will continue releasing Fractals. Like dungeons themselves were kind of abandoned because Fractals were supposed to be the new 5-man content, and it was supposed to be easier for them to make. It would be nice if they did pick up the speed on it, but I mean, we've been making the same complaint about raids for the last, how long has it been now, Teapot? 2 years?
You don't even
7 come out?
You don't want to know. It's nearly been 1,000 days.
Yeah, so we're approaching 3 years without a new raid, then, right? So, like, going back to what you were talking about with the hardcore community, I would say that the issue is the sense of neglect that they're feeling, because if we take a look at Snowcross, for instance, a lot of people use the Snowcross builds and guides on how to do content in this game. Like if I need to go to raids, most training groups will say, hey, go to Snowcross and grab one of these sites. I know that's something with Hardstuck that Teapot wants to have. Here's all these builds that you can use, and here's easier builds and variants that you can do too. But what do we do if Snowcross goes away? What do we do if Meta Battle wasn't there? Like, what do we do if all these guilds that were part of the hardcore scene go away because of the sense of neglect, and we go back to how everybody was before Heart of Thorns came out, where we were basically just flailing around trying to figure out rotations, right? So that's part of the concern for the long term. It's like, ANET probably should throw a bone to the hardcore community every now and then, like some quality of life stuff to keep them around.
Well, they are though.
And they are, but I think mostly the big stuff the hardcore community wants is more content. They want a new wing. They want more Fractal CMs, which hopefully we'll see some come out after EOD. Like, because yes, a lot of their development time has been focused on the expansion. Hopefully we get that. Hopefully Strike CMs actually work out the way that they're saying. So we'll see. Let's see, what other topics were you guys talking about? So as far as like the amount of gold per hour from these things, if people were doing fractals or dungeons or raids or open world, PvE, PvP, whatever, specifically because they wanted a high amount of liquid gold, they wanted the liquid gold per hour, I would ask the question, why are you doing any of that if that's your only goal? So this goes back a little to what Sam was saying, is that doing that content, like there's other things that you're getting out of it just besides the raw gold. Like you're probably doing because you think it's fun. Hopefully you're playing the game because you enjoy it and you're not just looking for the little yellow numbers in your wallet go higher. Because truly, if you were actually looking for liquid gold per hour, you wouldn't be doing any of that content. You'd be farming the trading post.
Yeah,
like the trading
yes
post.
and no.
Point,
Yes,
though.
yes and no, because people might not like to actually trade, and they'd still want to.
No. See, again, that's what I'm getting at, though, because you're doing that content because of enjoyment. It's not just pure gold per hour. It is a mixture of it, right? People want to do something that's fun and still earn a decent amount of gold, right? Like that's what it is.
Yeah, but like the thing is, and this has been something that we've tackled a lot, right? Is a lot of times everyone that asks about money making, always the first question: can I do content right now that doesn't involve touching a spreadsheet? Doesn't involve looking at. I mean, yes, the buy orders don't take that long, right? People used to think actually like sitting down on the trading post is literally 5 hours of content. No, it's a couple of minutes of putting whatever you need to buy, and then like just do whatever you play in the game, and then come back to it at the end of the day and check. But people don't even want that.
Do you know why I got into like doing trading post stuff to begin with? It was so that I could do whatever content I want because I enjoyed doing it and didn't have to worry about the rewards.
Yeah, but not every.
It was so that I
resonates.
could go do dungeon runs for 4 to 5 hours with my guild because I thought it was fun, or I could just do fractals because I thought it was fun. Like we did raids. I did not do raid cells because of the gold. I did raid cells because I got to do more raids, and my other guildmates needed that gold as a motivation. I actually was losing gold by doing the raid cells. So, like, if raids didn't have any drops, but I thought they were fun, like I would still do them because I make my gold in other places. Now that's not true for a lot of people, so you do have to have that carrot there. Especially for new players that haven't joined raids yet, you need to have some kind of carrot there to get them into it in the first place, so they get to the point where like they actually find out that, hey, this is actually fun, it's something I want to do. But like but as far as the changes go, like Teapot, when you're talking about, hey, when you do raids, there are a lot of other rewards. That is true. But the problem is, what do you do if you do them constantly enough? Where like those, well, you have all the ascended weapons now, like you have all the skins from raids. Like what do you get out of it now? Like I think what we mentioned earlier, the only thing you could do with magnetite shards after you get all of the skins from raids are ghostly infusions, and the only thing to do with the gaining crystals are peerless infusions.
That's an incredibly small subset of players, though, right? Like the amount of players you have, like full legendary armor, every skin in the entire game is an extremely small amount of players. It's an extremely small amount of players who even raid, right? So there's a lot of potential. Like the rewards have not.
I didn't say all legendaries.
Raids.
I said all the drops you can get from raids.
Well,
so
yeah,
getting
that's
everything
also
from raids,
incredibly
that's
small.
Actually,
that's
well,
an
if you're doing them every
small
week,
amount of people. Like
if you do them every week, it's not that hard.
It's not that hard, but that doesn't matter because there aren't that many players that have that in the entire game. And yeah, sure, like eventually the content ends up not being as rewarding. That's just kind of the nature of a horizontal progression game to an extent. But the thing is that it still has to have something going on there because there's pressure from other game modes. Like ultimately, Arena are going to keep releasing new things, like new skins, new legendaries, new quality of life stuff will probably come out, like mount skins in the gem store that you can use gold to buy. There's pressure to earn gold everywhere in the game, and people just want to be able to do that doing the content that they particularly enjoy, right? And yeah, it's not the case of they only do something for gold. It's like, yeah, they want gold as well, because that's going to allow them to progress their account and to see the numbers go up, basically. But what they want is they want to have their content that they want to feel like there is a future to their particular game mode, right? Like this is the key. And when you see stuff like, oh yeah, we're going to arbitrarily remove Mystic Coins from Fractal Challenge modes, which weren't relevant to the economy, which weren't actually played by that many players, it's very arbitrary, right? And with nothing given back to that, no mention of a Fractal, it's been like, I mean, 500, like 700 days, I think, since the last Fractal CM or something like that. Maybe it might be less than that. Maybe like 540, actually. I can't quite remember. But regardless, like that is the key thing here, right? Like, I do agree that ultimately you should not be reward driven. You should play the content because you like it. But there's another dynamic here as well. Like, a lot of players are very reward driven, and players typically won't get into content unless there's a good reason to. And
that's what I said,
like,
you have to have the carrot to get people into it.
Yeah,
and
the thing is,
I think
a culture
it's
that was built, it's been built over years in the game modes where, sure, yeah, I mean, hey, the fun should definitely be part of the reward. I mean, if you have fun, then does that, mean that the content, all you did was for nothing? If it gave you very little to what you thought it was supposed to, to me, yeah, and I agree with Teapot, like, you should want to have fun as part of the reward, but the culture in MMOs, and this is just years and years of every game teaching you that rewards eventually matter at some point. And so when very few games are now not using that as a priority, it's hard to get out of that mindset. It's just a very huge, it's something that's been ingrained already for a decade at least, maybe more than a decade at this point. And when we're in a game that is kind of almost not entirely driven in that way. And of course, when changes do happen where they're now prioritizing something new over the previous thing, that kind of perception is what players get pissed about, right? Because again, it goes back to the argument. People don't care if fractals still are pretty much the most profitable form of content in the game, right? They care that the challenging content itself now is not rewarding what it, that extra bonus. It's not maybe the be all end all, but that extra bonus makes no sense where now the lower end content is just as good as the challenging one, right? And that is the emotion that is more or less driving the entire narrative here. But yeah, and again, I don't think a lot of players, and this is, again, we've had this argument all the time with the players. Most of them don't want to do spreadsheets. Most of them don't want to look at the trading post. Yeah, it takes, sure, maybe your first couple sessions. I like to compare it to like a raid, right? Your first training golem is not going to be the best experience. Your first raid is not going to be the best experience. You probably have a lot of wipes. You might, still be learning things, class rotations, the importance of skills, priority. And that's the same as with finding out what items will sell, what items won't sell, what items to craft, what items. Yeah, that's part of the experience, right? And then eventually you can work towards where you're now just doing that in minutes, and then just go about your day and play the content. Not everybody wants to engage that kind of content, right? Not everybody, some people just want to just be rewarded for playing the game as, naturally as possible. I think the trading is part of the game naturally, but most players don't associate that.
Well, I mean, personally, I feel that harder content should have better rewards because, if something takes more skill to do, then I think that, or it takes more effort, I think that should be rewarded. Like, I don't like the fact that in a lot of open world stuff, everybody gets the exact same thing. If someone was just pressing 1 versus someone was dealing a much higher percentage of damage or support for the group. I think an experiment they did with strikes where it's like, they had bronze, silver, and gold reward tiers. So if you did it faster and made gold tier, you got more. I think if they had stuff like that to encourage people to be better at the game, I would see more value in that kind of stuff. I do think that Fractal CM should have rewards. I don't know why they took it away, because they admittedly said that it doesn't add a lot. They said 1.92 a day per person. If they had kept that and just added more MCs to strikes, would there be that much? Would there have been that much heartache about it at the end?
There would have been some either way, because some people would have felt that they were robbed of what made their content different. Because one thing that you two have said, and we can bring what Enko and MM said together, is it's not about how rewarding your content is out of the box. It's about how efficient you can get at it. And that is part of progression. That is part of the reward. If your content gives you I don't know, 10 gold, just a random example, 10 gold on completion. Someone who takes an hour to do it makes 10 gold an hour. Someone who takes 20 minutes to do it gets 30 gold an hour. That's where the difference is. So that's one thing. And the second thing on the different types of content and why we're getting different content and let's say an incentive to move to that content in PvE is that if you separate between PvP, War vs. World, and PvE, PvE as a whole is just an ever-changing adventure, so to speak, between whatever ArenaNet is focusing on developing. And whatever they focus on developing is what makes the most player partake in game mode, and what is the easiest to make. So that's the two things you want. You want it not to take too much time, and you want people to play it. Because that's how you basically say we've made good content. Like, it didn't take lots of man hours, and a lot of people participate in it. If you do that, investors are happy. They keep paying the wages. That's it. So if we take all of that into account, it's all about making some content that doesn't take too long, that everyone will play because it's accessible, that people who are very good can complete fast and efficiently, so that they get their rewards faster, can then go play something else that they supposedly enjoy. And everybody should be happy with that. The only issue is that the hardcore players, and once again I'm going to go full devil's advocate, the hardcore players can never be satisfied with what I've just said. Like, if you tell a hardcore player, well, then just do your strikes in 30 minutes, you get everything you wanted, and then you can go play your fractals. They will still be mad, even though they will have both the reward and the game mode they supposedly enjoy. Because it doesn't get wiped, it's still there. You can still play it. The experience is still the same. It's just the reward at the end that's different. And at the end of the day, if you're very good at fractals, you're still gonna get your rewards. You're still gonna go fast. And there we can also make like a parallel to the spreadsheet talk from earlier. If you are into spreadsheets, you basically are into the optimization of your gameplay, be it trading or be it any other form of gameplay. I recently made a spreadsheet on how to best use whatever you get from fractals to make more gold. Like, it just checks out. At some point, if you really want the reward, you optimize your run to get the reward the fastest and to use your reward the best. If you like the game mode as a whole, you just play it. And then you don't complain too much, even if stuff changes, because you can just play the other thing quickly, get your stuff, move back to what you supposedly enjoy.
Well, I think there's a slight middle ground there, though.
For the speaker community, I mean, if we take an example from like Guild Wars 1, for instance, like, part of the problem with Guild Wars 2, a lot of the hard content for reward-wise, it's time gated. So there's a weekly lock-in on raids, because if you do a raid boss again, you get some blues and some greens basically afterwards. With fractals, you do your fractal CM once, you do the daily T4s, and after that, the only reward you get is like the boss chest, which isn't that huge, right? So you compare this to Guild Wars 1, like something that like Underworld Speaklers and Fissure Woe Speaklers, like one of the big draws there to get faster was because you could get more rewards. So if you were a group of 8 people that can only clear Underworld in an hour, you know, you got the number of ectos you got per hour, right? Was that. If you did them faster, you could actually go again in that hour and get more. So, like, good groups were clearing in, 10 to 14 minutes? So you could get, like, 5 runs an hour in. And, like, you actually had an incentive to get better and to, like, try to min-max it, try to get faster at it, because you actually got rewards out of it. So part of the problem with raids, that as far as like speaklers go, it's like people who are actually doing speaklers, like to grind out, get better times, they're doing it because they want the better times. It's not for the rewards. But for the people that are doing raids because they want rewards, they do it once a week, and there's no reason to try to do it faster, because if you clear Wing 1 in 3 hours versus someone else that clears Wing 1 in 19 minutes, you guys have the exact same weekly reward. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So part of the problem with this here is that, like, if you are going for rewards, like, you're trying to maximize your rewards, but you're also trying to do it through game gameplay content, you're still going to do your fractal CMs. you're still going to do T4s, and then you're also going to do strikes. Because I think they say you only need to do a set of the new strikes twice a week. Is that what you need to maximize reward, or is it actually on a daily lockout?
No, it's a weekly lockout.
Well, we don't know really, right? They haven't actually completely said what they're going to do. The only thing we have is from what Solar put in that post, and he said that you had to do it twice a week to match the number of Mystic coins you got from Fractal CMs. So, but if you could do that every day, and there's actually the limit is once a day versus twice a week or whatever it is, I mean, if you are going for straight rewards, you're probably still going to do your fractals every day, and then you're going to go do your strikes every day.
I mean, assuming people do that.
I do think. Well, yeah, but I do think, going back to what Teapot was saying, that the issue is the sense of neglect that the hardcore community is feeling because they feel like this content's being abandoned. That's really the issue a lot of people are having at hand. But the problem is that if they didn't touch the reward and they just didn't release another fractal for another year, we would still have that same sense of abandonment. So a lot, like, the reward thing, I don't think is the issue. It really comes down to ANET's release schedule. Like, after EOD comes out, and then if when the Strike CMs come out, they also made announcements for plans for a new Fractal CM and new strikes, or not strikes because they're already doing that, a new raid wing. They would actually see that, hey, ANET's actually developing content towards us. Now, if their idea of new raids is the Strike CMs, and they're doing that because, like, it's less assets that they have to create, but it's actually truly difficult to do. I think that would be a step in the right direction, where they can maybe simplify what they're doing internally as far as content development goes, and still making, like, fairly difficult content. Now, if it strikes where it's just a single boss, because I honestly enjoy full clears more than individual bosses. Like, full clear speedruns, I think, are more interesting than individual boss speedruns. But ANET probably, if they truly are trying to get this a stepping stone into raids, like, as they said multiple times, as what the intention for strikes is, they're going to need to come up with a Wing 8 eventually, because why would you create stepping stones into 3-year-old content? Like, I don't know. I'd be expecting a Wing 8 here eventually.
Well, because those systems aren't going to go away. Ever.
Well, they're not going to go away, but
they're not going to make content obsolete in the game, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot, and that's what people are worried about. By taking the rewards away from fractals, that it's going to make fractals obsolete, kind of like how people think dungeons are obsolete.
Yeah, but
actually, I just think that a lot of people don't think dungeons
are far different. There's a very huge there's a very huge difference between those two reward structures, right? Fractals is far from obsolete. Even with this change, it's far from even being close to that. Why would they update the reward structure? It is actually what Teapot says. It's like, there's no reason not to. Like, that content is still relevant, right? Yeah, maybe the raid community in itself and the hardcore community in itself is a very small percentage of the player base, when you even shrink it down to the hardcore side, from both of those content game modes. But the systems are there, so they're not going anywhere. So it would make sense to just, if you're going to do this change, like, it's fine, right? Because that content is still being done in some capacity. Casual or hardcore, like, there is still an incentive to do them, right? Now, I would like to see what the numbers are for dungeons, because clearly they skipped on that, right? And there was nothing there. So, I mean, I'm sure they have numbers to justify why those contents got the upgrades, because they're clearly still being referenced till today. They're still done in your daily routine, as most of the players, at least. They'll do your T4s, maybe not CMs for everyone. People will do T4s, people will do Recs at least, and same with raids. People will at least try to get their weekly clears, or a lot of the guilds who are running maybe a bit more on the casual side will try to get, let's say, a raid or two, and they'll schedule their raid day, right, once or twice a week. It depends on different groups. So yeah, it wouldn't make any sense to just not update those contents. The reward structure there is fine for what they did. I don't expect we'll get a 8th wing after EOD immediately. In fact, to me, and this is maybe a little, maybe not too off topic, but with EOD, I honestly, and I've talked about this last week on stream, I really feel they need to fix a lot of things before we get new content in the game. And that's more because of the Steam release. But that's a little off topic of this. To answer your question, at least about the why would the systems be there though. But,
I'm
okay.
speechless. I'm speechless, MM.
Yeah. Do you not think the situation of maybe, I don't know, improving the game is better than maybe new content?
Well, I think their first thing that they said that the next content that's going to be coming out is Strike CMs. So they're going to have the EOD launch. They're going to have people get through that and, you know, get through the normal strikes, and then the CMs will eventually come out. And I think a lot of it may end up being that they want to see some of the metrics for that. Like if there's enough player engagement in Strike CMs, maybe they'll put raids back on the table. Like, I would kind of expect that a Wing 8 is kind of in development. I don't know, T-Bone, maybe you've heard other things, but maybe it's me just hoping. But the only thing that they've said so far is that Strike CMs are going to be next. So we'll have the normal strikes on EOD launch, and then the Strike CMs will come later. And then they've also had like the banner and spirit changes are going to be coming out later too. Those aren't coming out at launch. So I think they're probably going to see how the new elite specs handle in 10-man content, because I'm assuming the player base is going to come up with something that they probably didn't think about. That is, because this has happened every single time, is that something is going to be massively overpowered or messed up, or something's going to be massively underpowered and messed up. So honestly, we will have to see what happens next week with Ender of Dragon's launch. We'll have to see how strikes play out. Like on the economy side, like I think a lot of the changes are going to be with Gen 3s, what those are going to cost to make. Because right now it sounds like Mystic Clover's that portion, like the tribute gift, is going to be like the money side of the gift is probably going to be a heavy part of the legendary, because they're talking a lot about Mystic Clovers right now. Yeah, but we'll have to see. Like everybody that did all the Return to achievements is getting a precursor, right? So they're already 1/4 of the way towards the Gen 3 Legendary. And the Gen 3 Legendary also seems like it's also going to be part of the reward structure that they're going for, because of all the different skins you can unlock for each one. So, and like going back to a little bit earlier, where it's like, you know, we're talking about rewards you get from raids that are account items. Because I know a lot of people are like, hey, we want things we could get from in-game content, not just stuff we could buy, like not gem store stuff, not just stuff we could buy with gold. We want something that we feel had a meaningful reward that we had to do something to get. Like a lot of people bring up like the Griffin or the Sky Skull, where you have to go through something. Like the collections for like the original Gen 2s, which was kind of the point. They wanted to put you on a journey through it instead of spending gold. And I think with raids, a lot of the stuff with that, like the skins, the minis you could get from them because they're not tradable, was intended to be a little bit like that. But it's still kind of like, some of those things weren't that great. Some of the skins in raids were kind of like, eh. Like,
They're ugly,
what
bro.
they had
Just say it. They're disgusting, man. Just state it. So the skins, you wouldn't
there's
use them.
a couple of good ones. Some of the Doom items are kind of cool.
No.
There's some of the minis are kind of cool,
Dude,
but I can't really say how often I've really seen raid weapon skins being used besides like the Doom Scythe. So, I mean, yeah, if they put some of the gem store type item skins like locked behind harder content, so if you got that, at least if you were the first few to get it, that'd be an exclusive skin for a little bit, basically. Like So, I mean, if people want in-game rewards, like specific in-game rewards, I mean, ANET's got to make money too with the gem store. But yeah, it would be nice if they stuck in some nice skins.
Nice.
That was exactly
I think
what I was
I think the Sabbatha was it the backpack? No, it was the mini.
Yeah,
that was a gem store item instead of actually a raid drop.
Yes.
Like stuff like that, I think is kind of messed up. Where it's like, hey, this is a raid item that you put in the gem store. Like that kind of stuff, I think is kind of weird. But yeah, I think if they put some good skins as rewards, as like for the Strike CMs, like after you had to get a bunch of the Strike CM currency to exchange for that one, like maybe they could put one of the items you need for one of the Gen 3 skins, Like to unlock Primordus's version of it, like you had to get an item from the Strike CMs or something like that, or you had
They
to
probably
exchange
will do
it
that.
from like raids.
They
Yeah, so
probably
if they
will
do
do that,
that,
but
so it's like
when it comes to like the raid thing, though, I do want to quickly clarify this because this is a really interesting point. So you know, like the Zerosmar stuff and the Sloth Soul back piece, Mini Sabbather, basically the maybe not Mini Sabbather, that might be like the more egregious example there, but for the Sloth back piece and Zerosmar, the way they put it, and look, you could not believe them if you don't want to, that's fair, but what they said is it was either in the gem store or it doesn't make it to the game. So the question is, what would you prefer? Would you prefer that it just didn't exist or it's in the gem store?
You know,
why were those the only two
that's
options?
just-
though?
no,
like
see,
why couldn't they put it as a raid reward?
they
Well, because
could-
that's what they said.
Yeah.
That they didn't. They couldn't justify the time it takes to like
Yeah,
rig up the
exactly.
model or whatever without putting it in the cash shop.
Okay, well,
Like,
I think
that's what I was
as
saying in the chat.
perception goes from the player base, it probably would have been better to not have put them in the game then.
No.
Like we wouldn't have even known that it wasn't made if they just didn't say anything, right? But if they told us, oh, there was a skin we created, but we didn't want to put it as an in-game reward, but it had to be gem store, but there was discussion that, well, this is a raid-related item, it should be a raid reward, but we can't put the development time in to put it in unless it's a gem store item. If they just didn't tell any of that, because it probably infuriated people more that it was a gem store item than if they just never said anything.
Only temporarily, though. Now people aren't really that mad about it.
Yeah, but like, the thing is, and that's what I was saying in the chat earlier, they need the monetization. And at the end of the day, the players who are vocal are minority. The hardcore players are a minority. We mostly bring up our topics on Reddit, not the official forums, because these are, let's say, a little bit more heavily moderated. And at the end of the day, we're not going to be paying for the wages. We're not going to be paying for the development time. We're not going to be paying for these people because we make our own gold. We play the game so much that we have more than we need. And we're never going to go and swipe the card to buy gems. The only thing we buy are alt accounts when they're not given for free with Prime. Or maybe buying expansions for said alt accounts, some of them. That's the only money we're spending. We're not spending any other money. So, and that's this discussion I had at some point with one of my viewers. Like we sat down for lunch, and I was actually curious to understand how a casual player treats the game. So it was an eye-opening conversation for me. And he was like, "Yeah, you know what I do? It's very simple. Like, I don't play the game. A release happens. I actually update my game, and then I come in. I realize I have missed out on some of the stuff from the previous update." So I'm just going to play around a little bit, and then I want the stuff from the new update. So I'm just going to buy some gems and get the stuff from the new update, because now I have gold, I can spend it. So basically, that person, every time there was a new Living Story episode, would come in, spend $20, get some stuff, be happy about the stuff they got. Because the rest of the time, they don't play, so there is no, there is no need to justify the amount of hours they've sunk into the game. Because they just feel like, okay, I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to put $20 in, it's going to be fun. It's just like going to the movies, right? You want to go to the movies, you put $20 in, you watch the movie, you're happy. And he treats the game the same way. He gets the Living Story done, he enjoys it. And that's one thing that the hardcore players will never do. So even if what we want makes sense, even if what we want is valid, we are not the demographic that will get a say in whatever happens decision-wise and release-wise. And I think that's a fact. And people need to hear it, just like they also need to hear that it's completely correct to be mad that something gets taken from you. Like, it's normal to be mad about that. But it's just, you don't make the choice because you're not the wallet that pays the wages.
I do, like, if we're still going to talk about the Mystic coins from Fractals, I think that
I brought it back because it was a good example.
Slightly tangential here, yeah.
No. I think like
Teapot, it's not a tangent if it goes full circle.
If they had increased the number of clovers you could get, like as from fractal drops, like as I said, like have it be exchanged for relics, and like take Mystic coins out of it completely, like drive people towards clovers instead of coins. Would there be this much like if you could get 15 we get 14 right now. If you could get like 20
Enko.
clovers a week from fractals, but it was from Fractal Relic Exchange instead. Like put relics in the reliquary, or from the Fractal vendor, have it be Fractal Relics. Take out the Spirit Shards, take out the Ectos, take out the Mystic Coins. Just have it straight up be Fractal Relics for Clovers. So, if ANET's intention for Mystic Coins is like, hey, the main purpose of this is for Mystic Clovers, and look, you can get more Mystic Clovers now from this. We're just taking the tradable item out of it, but you got Fractal Relics. How much would people would still be upset if they actually increased the rewards from it, but they decreased the tradable rewards from it?
It's a good question. To be honest, I think it would go down a little bit better. However, I do think that the issue that you mentioned earlier, Enko, kind of comes into play then, right? Is because, yeah, you're going to get more account value, but a lot of players may not necessarily have a usage for that account value. And that can potentially cause some problems. But yeah, I think that would have been a worthy trade-off. I think people would still have been mad, though. Like, if let's say they said, oh, you don't drop Mystic Coins anymore, but you drop Mystic Clovers. Right, there's like they did the maths on it, so you get the exact same account value out, but it's Mystic Clovers instead of coins. Some people may have preferred that even. That's a really interesting kind of idea to talk about. Maybe some people would even prefer that, but I think in general you'd still have this. Oh, I can't sell my Mystic Coins anymore. But yeah, I think that would have certainly softened the blow a little bit. Or if they'd done something with, I don't know, the currency, right? Like unstable fractal essences. If you could get gold out of that somehow, or again, maybe there's like a slightly better deal you can get, like buying some more clovers using unstable fractal essences. Will be a bit weird to kind of double that up, I guess, with relics too. But something like that, I think, would be an effective countermeasure to this. But I still think people would be upset, regardless, because you're getting less liquidity, and what a lot of people really want out of fractals is that ability to buy stuff. Right, sell stuff, buy stuff is what a lot of people use fractals for as their main kind of liquid income every day.
Yeah, it comes as like the kind of, I guess, is freedom the right word? Maybe kind of free. Like, yeah, freedom to have that as being okay. I can check what I want with this now, rather than being given a very, let's say, specific way to getting the reward. Right, like this is your option, and just stick with it for now. I have to say though, Sam, like. I mean, the issue with this comes as because of the fact that it's a pay, and someone actually even said this in the chat, because it's a pay to play system. Unfortunately, as well, this plays into the part of the rewards because could there be more use, right? Like, okay, if in End of Dragons, Gen 3s aren't the only ways that you could spend your Mystic Coins, right? Let's say they release something else that you could buy into them. Maybe there's a secret mount or a secret item equivalent of whatever End of Dragons would release, or if they had something like that. That'd be another way to somewhat countermeasure this entire change they've done. That would even maybe push the MC a little bit upwards, since they will be like another source of spending it in. And it goes back to the whole point, there's not as many things that you would spend it in, but then there's also not that many places that you can even get these coins from. But again, this goes even with the raid stuff. Like, a lot of these skins, or a lot of the items that most of the players have been, I would have been fine if this item wasn't on the gem. So I would have been fine if this skin was something I had to do an achievement or spend in-game hours to get through some currencies or some way. It is the takeaway when you have a pay to play. You're not going to be able to get that much out of it, right? I mean, I agree with you, Sam. I mean, it is.
Yeah, but okay, then I have a question, Emma. I have a real question, and Teapot, Enko as well. Please, like, answer the question truthfully. If I told you, from now on, every skin that is tied to a living story or an event, like be it mount skin, like capes, whatever, is purely tied to achievements, but you need to pay 800 gems, like by buying the gems, not exchanging, buying the gems, to get the content the reward is tied to. Would you?
Wait, so are you saying if
I'm saying everything is from playing. Everything is from playing, but you need to buy the content.
Okay, so you could do raids all you want, but you got no drops or anything unless you contributed 800 gems?
No. What I'm saying is for new content. Let's say you have like new like strike mission that
Okay,
comes
so new
with
strike
a
scans
living
come out.
story with a living story episode. Let's say the living story episode model.
Yes.
Let's say
Yes.
everything is from achievement, but you need to buy the episode the same way that people who didn't unlock it by logging in on the week of release or the time of release need to pay.
Yeah.
Would you pay?
Content,
Because I would, because that checks out.
DLC basically,
Content
right?
is
get
the only
everything
thing they
achievement.
don't sell in the gem store. It's always weird to me. Like, the only thing that
Yeah.
ANET don't sell is their own content. They give that away for free. It's bizarre. Like, absolutely insane.
You're
I don't
Or
get it.
like a battle pass works. Like some people said battle pass in the chat. Let's say living story pass. There is going to be like 5 episodes. You pay like €30, and you're going to get all of them unlocked as they release. And everything is achievable in game.
No, absolutely.
No, I mean,
That would work.
This
That's
is actually- I
the
think this is
problem.
one
But like
part- this
that's
is
the
one
problem.
part where
I mean,
majority
I
of
would
the players
still
would agree
pay
on.
just because I want to support ArenaNet.
Yeah.
Like I usually buy all their stuff whenever they have anything that's actually monetized anyways. Like I bought the Arena statue and it's sitting at my house back in the US right now. I haven't seen it yet. Like I tend to buy their products because I do want to support the company. Like they've been a company that I've been playing their games for the last 20 years. So if they decided to monetize new episodes, like either with the battle pass or it's like you had to buy the new episode, yeah, I would still do it.
Because like people in the chat are saying, how would you do for PvE, PvP versus?
Well, so
I mean,
the thing is,
everything
like,
that's already released,
the-
you just play it. It's like the new
Yeah,
episode,
so
the new
I mean,
strike
so
mission,
if you're saying
you
like
don't get
everybody
that
can
one.
still play it as it is now.
Yeah,
When
everybody-
the new episode comes out, you can still play it. You just
No.
don't get the rewards,
No. New episode.
or you have to.
No,
You're
no,
saying
pay
you have to
for.
buy the episode.
But like
No,
everything that already exists in the base game, you can just keep doing. Like no sub.
Like
I'm
new
not saying a
content,
sub.
like,
I'm
right,
just saying
going
the new
forward.
content.
Yeah.
The new content. Like because every time we get a living story episode, you get like some skins in the gem stores or everything tied to.
Imagine that
whatever.
every release is an expansion, a very small one. That
Like
is what
this.
Sam
Okay.
is saying here.
Basically
Easy.
saying that. Yeah.
Simple.
Like
Every single
That's
thing
all
they
do it.
put in is a mini expansion.
because people don't realize that
Yeah.
money
And that
makes
would
the
be
game
fair.
go round.
And-
So like either
So,
you
I mean,
pay for the
I-
cosmetics
so I-
or you pay for the content that gives you the cosmetics. But
I've
at the
actually
end of the
said
day,
this
someone's got to
before,
pay something.
So if I think people would be more willing to pay money to ANET for stuff if ANET actually had a better release cycle.
That too,
So,
yeah, that would also be needed.
If we
of
were
course.
getting
Yeah.
regular raid wings, we were getting regular fractal CNs, we were getting regular living world updates, like constant. Like we actually had a good release cycle, and then they charged like $5 every time a new one came out or something like that. I think people would be willing to pay if it was quality content and it was coming at a decent pace. Now, if you're saying like, hey, we're going to pay us $30 for a pass for like the next 10 living story seasons or next 10 living story episodes, but then every living story episode's 5 months apart, I don't think that would fly.
That wouldn't
No, I
fly.
mean,
No,
with the
that
money,
wouldn't
right?
fly.
I mean,
You need a proper
This goes
release.
back to like my two biggest complaints about ArenaNet is their like public affairs, like how they talk to how they reach out with the community, and then their release cycle, because the release cycle is atrocious. If they had a regular release cycle where it was every 4 months a new raid came out, every 4 months a new fractal came out, every 4 months there was a balance patch, every 4 months was a World vs. World PvP season, and it just rotated through those things, so you had 3 rotations a year, people probably would be willing to pay more money. But if like you said, hey, pay $10 for Wing 8, and then Wing 8 takes 3 years to release, I don't think people would want that.
I mean, I think
No, but
it would be
or-
given,
I mean, you
right?
you just
with more
pay when
money
it
coming
comes
in, they'd be able to pump out at least at a decent pace
Like-
with new
like,
content.
Yeah, do you know what the problem is with this? Do you know what the problem is?
Yeah, go
If they
on,
did
go on.
this, they'd make less money.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, because honestly, the Gem
Sure,
Store
sure.
probably does make them
Yeah,
quite a bit.
True,
This is
because like
something
the Gems for
that-
dies. Yeah, the Gems for dies.
Here's the problem with the industry. You know what? Gaming industry? Let's go. So a lot of people think, oh, wow, this game is free to play. It must, oh, look, they're sacrificing their income without a sub fee. Wrong, actually. Microtransactions out-earn sub fees and buy-to-play games. Obviously, otherwise companies wouldn't do it, right? Think, oh yeah, all the executives in their suit and tie, they're sitting there, right? Oh, we're just gonna sacrifice our profits to make this game free. No, of course not. Are you kidding me? No. Like, the reason why you have microtransactions is because they milk you harder than a sub feed. That's the entire point of these things in the game. So if they actually sold content, they'd make a lot less money because, one, people actually perceive it to be worse, right? This is the worst part about this, in my opinion, is that people perceive selling content to be worse than selling microtransactions, which I kind of get it, right? It's like, oh, you know, I have to pay to play the game, whereas you can just play the game for free, right? I get that. Whereas in reality, it's kind of the other way around. Like, selling content is the most sensible consumer company interaction, in my opinion, right? We make something, you buy it, you play it, right? Like that, to my brain, I understand where that's going, okay? Makes sense. But people perceive it to be less value, so I think it would hurt the reputation of the game. And games like that tend to do less well because people don't like that model quite as much. And they'd make less money because they'd essentially be selling less. They'd be making less individual sales, right? So to compensate for that, the prices would have to be a lot higher on this content, even compared to some of the gem store stuff. Because the thing is, what you didn't mention there, actually, Sam, is the price. Because what would that look like? What if to play a raid, you had to pay 8,000 gems, right? Now, I think
no, Jude,
$100.
Okay. No. I said,
$100.
I said a normal amount of. I said 800 gems. I'm not saying go sell your liver every second release.
Yeah, but the thing is
that thing don't grow back. Nah.
They wouldn't be able to sell that, though. They wouldn't be able to sell that.
But like, Teapot, I mean, like, dude, you're preaching at the wrong core. I'm a filthy gacha gamer. You know,
oh really?
I have no qualms spending hundreds of euros to maybe have a chance to get the new unit that's gonna win in PvP. I'm that candidate.
The last podcast.
I'm about to say, I'm actually playing games right now, and I have spent money on both of them. And every single time I look at my Google Play receipts, I'm like, I could have bought 10 PS5s with this, even with them being overpriced. I'm like, crap.
I mean, I hate looking at my Google Play history because that shit hurts, man. Oh shit, I'm still gold on the play points, almost platinum. Wow.
Yeah, but I mean,
I've been platinum for a while.
The issue that comes
with
this, right?
That's
Again,
my man.
It goes with the reward changes and everything. It's hard for them to add something to replace what they just took out, because again, if they add encryptions, well, that's gonna alter that market, right? If they add keys, then that gives the ability to affect it in a different way, where now you can have more cracked open boxes. So honestly, if they wanted to make this easier, what they could have done is just kept the MCs, went with something else to kind of sync the MCs from the excess strikes, and that would have been it. For future content or future parts of the game, honestly, the problem right now is not even that. That's like, just when it comes to the economy, right? Let's take out emotion, let's take out whatever, just numbers and just patterns we've seen. It's not even this. It's really the amount of materials that are overflowing right now in the economy, right? Like the Overflow Trading Company. Join the Discord and make money. And I really think that, honestly, the bigger issue is they need to find more material sinks. There's not enough material sinks right now in the game. There is an abundance of places that you can get your base mats, your Mithril, your Elderwood, your Orichalcum, etc. That is an underlying issue that I think they need to solve in the upcoming year, because I'm probably expecting that, there'll be some things that are required. Gen 3s may probably use that, base materials, T5s, T6s. That's not enough. They need more sinks in that regard. And that is more of the underlying issue in the grand scheme of the economy things, at least moving forward in the kind of subject here.
So the problem also with that, is that, of course, there is an overabundance of materials, but it's not that we don't have enough sinks. It's, if you think about it, the player base for Guild Wars 2 is rather mature in the sense that we don't exactly have a constant influx of new players who are going to do new player stuff. Instead, most of the population has been playing for a fair amount of time, and they can get their gear with currencies, they can get legendaries by grinding specifically for them and just crafting the part that they need because they already have materials, other stuff that farm, gold to buy it on the trading post, etc. So there is no real way to get a portion of the player base to spend materials or use them in crafting. Like, if you want people to use materials, you need to introduce people who are going to consume materials at a faster rate that they can earn it. I don't remember the last time I used mithril and enderwood to make something I needed for myself.
That's just
I can't remember it.
That answers my take.
I actually
basically.
just started making them again because I need quite a lot, but this is also a goal that nobody else in game I think will ever do, which is to max out the armory, like make 4 of every Gen 2 legendary. Like, once you make 1 Gen 2 legendary, it's like, what are you gonna do it for besides craft and then sell it? But again, this goes back to the heat death of the universe type thing. It's just like, once you've got everything, what do you do with the rest of your stuff? So same thing goes back to what we were talking about with raids before. Once you have all the raid rewards, what do you do with, if you keep doing raids, what do you do with those drops?
Is that a problem, though?
Man, the weapons are 1 gold if you sell them to vendor.
Well, I mean, yes, that's true. So you can liquidate those. But I think that this point, for example, what would you say in World of Warcraft? What do you do when you have full best in slot? Same question, right?
I've never touched WoW, so I actually don't know.
Okay,
what other MMO have you played? Can you tell me an example of another MMO, or something like Diablo or Path of Exile?
Old Republic.
Okay,
Diablo,
what do you do?
Diablo 3 and 2 weren't really. They weren't really.
They're not MMOs, right? But they have progression systems. What do you do when you've maxed out the progression system in those games?
Well, you can always get better loot, so you keep grinding, basically.
Yeah, but what happens? What happens when you've got like full best in slot? Like, or is it just like arbitrarily infinite in some of these games?
Make another character and do it on a different class.
Okay, great. So in that case, right? Essentially, you just have to keep doing things and find something else to do in the game. Like, go and play another game mode would be like the other argument.
Give yourself a new goal.
What I'm trying to get at here is that this idea of what do you do when you have everything unlocked, this applies to an insane minority of a minority already, right? So let's say that 5% of the population raids in Guild Wars 2. That is very generous, by the way. Let's say that 5% of the population does fractal CMs, right? That's very generous, by the way. What percentage of that 5% has every reward? So like every abyssal fractal skin, all the Watch Night stuff that you can get, all of the infusions you can obtain from farming those fractals, like every possible skin, and then it raids. Who's got every raid skin? Who's got every single unique cosmetic? It's a ridiculously small number, right?
This goes into my point before, though. Most of the people that have played raids enough to get to that point, though, they're not doing it for the rewards. They're doing it because they enjoy it, or they enjoy playing with the people that they're playing with. So as far as the carrot, that carrot really is to try to get people into the game mode, really.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I completely agree. Yeah, 100%. But this is kind of what I mean, right? Like, it's kind of a non-issue if people eventually finish it. Yeah,
I think it's amazing they actually added. You could get clovers with Magistite shards. You could get non-raider related stuff.
But I mean,
with
the point he's getting at, right, is it's more like, if you've done everything there is to do, getting everything that you need out of that content,
you probably like the game mode, right?
Like,
you probably
you're doing it because you enjoy the game mode, not just for the reward anymore.
I mean, at the same time, it's also like a lot of things that people forget to see. It's like, if you've spent thousands of hours in the game and you're like, I feel like there's nothing I could do in the game that would motivate me anymore, right? I mean, 4,000 or 5,000 hours, wouldn't you say you've got your money's worth in the game? If you
definitely,
so it's fine at the end of the day if you've completed all the rewards you can get, everything that you can get out of the game mode is done. Put the game down, go play another game, go outside. Maybe there's another game called Real Life. I think sometimes it's okay to play. And there's maybe another goal that you maybe haven't thought of, and maybe it will come back to you at some point and you'll be like, oh, that's a goal I never thought about doing. Maybe learning a new class in the raid, or maybe there's an achievement that's not even literally specific to the game mode, right? Like something will happen and you'll go. Again,
Yeah, at some point the rewards don't really mean much to you anymore, but it is important to have rewards to get people into the game mode. And as far as the Abyssal weapon skins, Teapot, I actually have them all, but I've never actually done the CM achievements. I don't have the CM achievement for people not dying yet.
Nice. It's time to get on that.
Professional game.
So you've got one more thing.
Yeah,
one
that's
more
probably
thing to go
something I'll
for.
get when I get back
You're not
home.
done. It's not over for you. Yeah, this is kind of what I mean, though, right? Like, I think that there's always going to be this element of like a treadmill, right? And the devs are on the treadmill. They've got to keep releasing stuff for everyone to kind of consume and like greedily. I mean, just think about this expansion. Like, I often find this quite funny, actually. So ANA they've been beautifully crafting these high resolution rocks in the Jade Sea, right? All these intricate details. We're going to burn Ender Dragons in less than a week, right? That is semi-certain, right? So they've been working on this for like a year or whatever, maybe even more than like a year and a half, maybe, depending on, we don't know exactly. But we're going to burn this, like, maybe not a week, right? We're going to burn it in less than a month, right? I can guarantee you that that someone, or at least, a subset of players will have every achievement, every skin, every legendary, right? Done all this content, like optimize the strikes to infinity, right? All the CM's done, right? That's gonna happen within 1 month, right? The idea that the devs can keep up with the player base, a modern player base, in terms of rewards, it's not gonna happen, ever. Maybe sure, back in like vanilla WoW, when everyone was playing up on a dial-up connection and with like a 640 by 480 resolution screen, okay, yeah, sure, the devs could maybe outpace you then, but now, no way. Like, there's nothing they can do.
Well,
Like,
only
we will mercilessly
here's my idea.
destroy their game.
There is one way, but you don't want it, and that way is to introduce some sort of endurance meter, and you spend endurance to enter instance content.
No, we're not going to time-based energy
Well, that's why I say you don't want it, because that's the only way to stop a player base, is to tell the player base, you've played enough. That's the only way to stop people.
Infinite gear
Teapot,
progression. Infinite vertical progression.
How about this system?
Infinite vertical. How do you do that?
Just
You
like
put
the
leaderboards in.
Leaderboards are only fun for a time, right?
And you call it epic, and there you go.
Yeah. No, I think
Tio,
it's
what
really
would you
fun.
think of this kind of system? You put leaderboards in for achievements, like, so every time you killed Veil Guardian, you got 1 point to that achievement, and that's actually public. So you do that for the new strikes, or the new strike CM. So instead of like kill proof,
Public
this gets
kill
rid of kill
count.
proof too. You could just see how many times someone has killed that boss, and there's a leaderboard for it in game. So your name's at the top, so people will compete for like having it done the most.
I like that. I can vibe with that. Yeah.
I think that would be. I wouldn't do it that way in terms of kill count. I would probably do it in terms of kill time. Because if you did it with kill count, I actually feel it would be
kill count,
super obnoxious.
Unemployed people and students are gonna top that shit, man. You're not ready for it because we got lives, bro. We've got jobs, we've got lives, we've got social lives. Some of us, at least. And how the fuck am I meant to be at the top of a leaderboard for kill count?
Sorry,
I can play like 3 times a week.
You'd be surprised what people will do to be at the top of a leaderboard. There is another player that recently was refining resonating slivers and then salvaging them and then refining them again to get to 100 million salvages before I could.
I mean, I have an opinion of
He was
this
doing
kind of
that
behavior.
300 gold an hour or 300 gold every million salvages just to be on top of a leaderboard.
Yeah, but I have an opinion about this kind of people. Like, what I think that's not very clever. Not to say the opposite of the word clever. Just,
But okay,
I mean,
so
like,
to bring it back,
if they had
we're kind
like
of going
that
off
boss
topic here.
kills.
To bring this kind of whole thing back, and get into like a final topic of the discussion. If we were to have, let's say, reward changes or maybe incentives, let's call them incentives, in a way where, and it could be in the form of leaderboards. I'll give a couple takes of my own. And I'm sure this has been suggested by a lot of people as well. Or in a way where, okay, you have this incentive, and then if you're getting this reward from a leaderboard or something, maybe there's, again, I do stress the fact that we need more material sinks, because Sam, you talk about there is, I mean, you kind of proved the point when, there's not many things that you need now. A lot of your base materials. Exactly. Do you know how easy it is to rally up like commanders and farmers in any of the farming discords, and within 2 weeks, if all of them are all on the same idea of we need to farm, you know how much you know how much units go down by? Like a silver 85, right? And so I think there needs to be more syncs with those in place. More syncs. How they do that, they need, again, there needs to be an incentive. Either it's in the form of skin, armor sets. I actually like the achievements that you have to go around in the world and do like kind of side quests. That's actually fun. I've been doing that, and honestly, I don't know why we don't have more of that. And sometimes people don't even discover those little gems until like they somehow get someone to fashion up their character. So a couple of reward changes I want to suggest is, first of all, for fractals. All right, that's been the main subject. For fractals, I would love to see the next set of tiers, right? Next level level 101,
100 CM, yeah.
200, right?
5 fractals.
Everybody's kind of discussed that, right? Everybody's even suggested that. I would love to see a maybe season, maybe 2 months, 1 month. I don't know how you want to set it up, but a season where if you participate in the season, your fractal is reset. Your fractal level is reset to 0. Go. However many times you grind it on the leaderboard. If you get X amount within a X amount of time, let's say the season is a month, and they want to maybe cap it. If you get to this level, you're going to get rewarded this much. But there needs to be somewhat to balance whatever they're giving you, right? So if it's encryptions, there needs to be a purpose to spend the encryptions. If they're giving you mystic clovers or mystic coins, then it needs to be something, right? Otherwise, that balance, and again, economy as good as it is, because of this way it's structured, where items mainly drop in most of the content in the game, they need to find a way to also take that item out of the game in some way, right? Without overbalancing the supply or over tipping the supply of that item. So T4s fractals, I'd love to see more tiers. I'd love to see a seasonal reset. If you participate in that season, you reset your level. You have maybe X amount of time to do that, and then there's an X amount of rewards. And again, there's balancing that you have to take care of on the side. Raids, maybe a similar leaderboard of some sorts, maybe a kill leaderboard to motivate players, maybe. Dub, this is more in tangent with alliances. When alliances come out, I'd love to see leaderboards for alliances with the most PPT, PPK, even just specific things like Dalyak escorts, things like that. Things where now, okay, I'm not the best guild to do this. We're not the best guild to get PPT points. Okay, well, we can kill a lot of players. We'll go do that, right? And then you'll compete with the guilds who are focused on that. We're not the best guilds who can do any of that. Okay, but we can do a lot of the Havoc style stuff, which is Dalyak escorting, maybe stopping keep sieges, right? Going and defending towers, camps, whatever, right? Things that like you can compete on another level. And you throw in the same kind of ideas, maybe PvP kind of have leaderboards, but maybe adding to that. I think incentives like those in general would be a refreshing take in the reward structure of the game, because that's not been done in that magnitude just yet, right? There's bits and pieces of it, but I think that in itself would probably give a bit of, breath of fresh air for players to go in and have now something in their game modes that they enjoy. And, whether it's raid kills, whether it's fractal level resets, how many times they've managed to do it, whether it's things in WW, things in PvP, that and even the minor stuff in PvE, where it's just like, go to this quest and go get X amount of things that you have to do with an NPC that's going to tell you, go kill this, then go over here, you're going to need to escort this all the way here. And then, like just things that like are so trivial, but when you actually look at them, you're like, oh shit, like I actually spent quite a bit of time on this idea, and I got some skins, right? They've done that with Living World Season 3, Living World Season 4. So more of that, please. That is my take.
So a reward track for doing stuff in the game, and then you get rewards out of that.
But the problem is you still need to design these rewards and find stuff that people will want to work for. The whole season point is kind of good, because that's like as soon as you have like a season, you reset the leaderboard to 0 and people compete for the leaderboard again. And that's great because people who will not get started at the beginning of a leaderboard that's lifetime will always hate that leaderboard. Like I personally would hate for there to be a lifetime leaderboard, because if I'm not playing actively when it comes out, then I'll never rank on it. But if at some point there is a season leaderboard and I'm jobless, I can grind it. I can be at the top. That's one thing that I like.
If you look at the fractal mission, or not fractal missions, the alliance battles from not battles. Yeah, there was 2 alliance ones. From Guild Wars 1, the leaderboards they had in that, they had like a weekly and a daily one, like tracker. It's the same way we do like the why am I blanking on this? The like the Griffin races and stuff like that. Where they have like a month, if they did like a old time, a monthly, weekly, daily leaderboard, so it would get people to keep doing those on a daily basis, and then you got rewards for being like first, second, third. And then like for the weekly ones, if you maintain those, like you would still get those rewards, and they could just have those be like a daily reward given out for people at the top of the leaderboards for each one. Yeah, I mean, if they actually rewarded them, that would be actually kind of be nice, instead of just having if it wasn't just for your name. But yeah, I think leaderboards
also
actually help a lot.
Okay, like one thing that would also help, and that's like a shitty idea. I already know it, but it's something that would make 2 types of players happy. Hear me out. Endgame infusions, but you can craft them, and that uses an ungodly amount of materials. So that way you can drain the stocks, eventually reach an equilibrium where whatever is being generated will get consumed because people will still want infusions. And this way balance it out for the people who are still mad that they didn't drop theirs and can't spend thousands of gold. Because eventually they will do it by just gathering materials and crafting the necessary steps and getting to there. Basically like the First Legion infusion. In my opinion, the First Legion infusion was perfect. Like, it looks good. It took a shit ton of items that were oversupplied and underused from the economy. The First Legion infusion was perfect. In my eyes, at least. Like, just tell me I'm wrong. It's cool, but like, it works.
Here's the thing, though. RNG is fun.
Yeah, I'm not saying the opposite. You can still drop it, bro. But like, you can also craft it for the price you'd pay on the trading post.
Yeah, I think though that I think having this stuff as pure RNG is kind of interesting. At the same time, and that sounds weird. It's a weird thing for me to say as well, because honestly, I think game systems like this, in a way, they are frustrating as well. But the fact that you can go like, oh man, I'm gonna do my chack, bam, I win my chack, right? Yeah, I think that kind of stuff is really good. I know you can still buy it. I know you can still craft it and stuff. I think in a way it's a bit more soul crushing, right? Like if you know that, oh my god, holy shit, I need to buy 1,000 more golden materials.
Teapot, hear me out. I have found the perfect solution. You create an RNG box for each encounter, and then you put a leaderboard, and when you are at the top of the leaderboard, you get a lot of currency that you can spend on that specific RNG box. I'm not saying like a Zephyrid box where you use materials and dump them in to get a chance at any of the infusions and a lot of very shitty items. I'm just saying like that one roulette, where the only thing you can get out is a check, because you're rolling a check and you're using something related to doing the check encounter. See?
Yeah,
I would argue that RNG is not that fun when you open 1.7 million boxes and you still don't get a chalk out of it.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's you're biased because you're not lucky, Enko. Huh? Have you tried being lucky? Open some fortune cookies.
Yeah.
I would say RNG is not fun when you spend like $9,000 to try to get a freaking Cephian Raid Shadow Legends and you still don't have one.
Yeah, I mean, so kind of on this topic, I think this is something that's actually a little concerning with the way some of the rewards are being designed in the game right now, actually, is that they're being moved away from drops and it's being pushed to vendors and stuff, like the Mystic Coins from Strikes and the Mystic Clovers that you can just buy from the vendor. I think stuff like this it actually kind of takes a bit of the fun out of the game. You know, I saw Angels bring this up, and I actually really agree with him, right? Like, one thing that's really good is like, oh, you know, you medium roll, right? Like, there's not a lot of this in the game. This is one of my main criticisms of the reward structures in Guild Wars 2. I think one of the reasons why it feels really soul crushing for players to grind out items is because it's so consistent, right? You know that you're going to need to do this X times to get your reward, right? And there won't be that little, oh, nice, I got a really good drop. Nice, that's going to really help me out in getting this account progress. You know that it's going to be the same thing every single day until you get there. And even though the RNG won't necessarily actually make it that much better, I think you perceive, you perceive it a lot better if there is this possibility that you can medium and high roll and really accelerate your progress in one way or the other. And I think putting it in the vendor is like, oh no, I have to do like this for another 40 weeks to get enough Mystic coins.
I'm so disagreeing. I fucking
really?
counters.
Is this why
PT counters are the
Really?
shit,
Is this
bro.
why you
I
gamble?
don't want to rely on RNG. I want my PT counter. I want to know that after 100 tries, I will have it. Because if I need to do like 10,000 tries, I'm going to be so mad. See, like last year, I didn't play much Guild Wars 2. I played Monster Hunter World instead. I know I'm late. There is a new Monster Hunter on the Switch, but I like Monster Hunter World. So I played it with my mates. And I have this guy in my IRL friends. The dude must have... I'm trying to say something that will not get us demonetized. The dude is way too lucky. I was going to say something about wives and other people, but that's wrong. So the dude is very lucky, okay? Extremely lucky.
Nice.
So lucky that he's the kind of people who dropped precursors from killing trash mobs in Guild Wars 2 5 times over. I hate the guy. And he stopped playing, he still dropped more than me. And I hate it. He stopped playing in 2013. He still has more. This is wrong. Yeah, so that dude is stupidly lucky. We play Monster Hunter. I need 10 tail parts from a boss we need to kill. We kill that boss 50 times. I have 5 pieces of the tail. He has 100. See, that's why it's wrong. We need a PT counter. I need to know that after a certain amount of tries, I'm going to have the things, because if I need to grind it over and over again, and one of the rolls is the 0 roll, I'm going to be mad.
Yeah, so I said this idea before. So like for the chalk, I think my idea would be like you could still drop the chalk like it can now, but you would also get a token if you don't drop it, and then after a certain number of tokens, you could go to a vendor and just exchange it. But that one will be account bound. You can't trade that one. The only one that's tradable is the one that drops. So you could get it for yourself, your own account. So like
that would be a good idea.
So like the leyline sparks, if they had something like that, where like maybe not that, because I mean you can farm them for the places, but from the chalk box, the drop for the Garrett infusion, or that could be traded. But yeah, you would get a roll of like 1 to 10 based on the currency if you don't get the chalk infusion, and then 1,000 of them or something like that, or whatever number they come up with, you can get an account bound infusion for yourself. So it doesn't affect the traders, but at least you got the item for yourself now.
That would also check out. Like if it's account bound, that's chill. I vibe with that, because it would also take the materials out, because like, or whatever thing you can exchange it for, or whatever thing you need to grind out for, it would at least give you a sense of purpose in doing your grinding, and at some point it's going to be better for the game in a way or another. Because that's also one way you can make people interact more with the game mode, is if you give a guaranteed reward after X tries.
So that's what this would do. So it's like you can still get it, but it won't devalue other people's infusions because you can't trade it. But this also wouldn't help people like Rumpo, who runs like 40 accounts on Garrett, like get more faster. Like the only thing that would help him would be the
dude could be
RNG.
mining bitcoins, but he's using alt accounts in Guild Wars 2.
Well, maybe he's mining Bitcoin now.
Maybe there's something wrong about confetti. Oh, sorry, chalk. It is the Bitcoin. That's what we don't know. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't mind if it is like account bound. Yeah, at least somewhat retains. I mean, the thing is though, the more and more people do it over time, though, less people are inclined to buy it, though, right? Unless, so the effect is a one-off, right? So it's like if you have one chalk, it's just one, and then if you want to, you know, get a second one, say through the account-bound vendor method, that would give you the second effect. So you'd still have to do it X and X and X amount of tries to actually maybe get the effect of 8 chalks, right? In some way. Maybe it could scale.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could probably scale.
If you don't get one from drafts and you want 8 chalk stack, you have to do chalk Garrett like 40,000 times. That would be that would actually be pretty hard.
So that's going to take a while, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to be a grind.
So I'm not saying make it a low number of ones, but it should be so someone could actually see like, hey, I'm actually making progress towards getting one. Like if I want it for myself, I'm making progress towards getting one, even though like it hasn't dropped for me. So it's just so that people can actually like they'll get something, because right now it's either you get the Chalk Garrett infusion or you get nothing. Like that's actually why I don't actually aim, like I don't grind the HRT metas, because if I'm like I just expect I'm going to get nothing, because I'm very unlucky in the game.
You get a lot of like mats that you actually need for some of the Gen 2s. And some other like stuff that's maybe
that's why I think that's why I think it's good. That's why I think it's good to introduce like medium stuff as well, though. Like the problem is that you know, right now you either get exactly like just a normal reward or you get nothing. I think there should be like multiple steps, right? If you get a little bit lucky, you should get like something worth 5 gold. If you get really, really lucky, maybe something worth 50 gold, right? If you get insanely lucky, maybe something worth 1,000 gold. And if you get inconceivably lucky, you get something worth 10,000 gold, right? I think that's what makes it exciting, right? Like the ability to kind of medium roll is, I think it makes stuff like that exciting and less soul crushing. Because if you did add like a token system or even like a crafting system, I actually don't think it actually helps. It doesn't help the content feel more rewarding in a way. It does a little bit. I agree that pity timers are really, really good. But I think if you want to make it feel exciting every single time, like, oh yeah, this is going to be great, I'm going to have an amazing chat today, I think you have to have this element of that you could get lucky. Not the only way to get these things, but that you could get lucky. Because right now, you get ridiculously, insanely god tier luck, or you get nothing, basically. And I think that's the issue here, right?
Yeah,
but like at the same time, it would need to be account bound or something, because if you have the possibility to medium roll or high roll, at some point you need to also make sure that you won't get a market flooded with mid rolls, because the way it is right now is since you only have high end rolls, they're not flooding any market. People actually keep the ones they get, or some people concentrate the ones that are available. But if you have a lot of mid rolls, then everybody's going to have the mid roll that they purchase for someone else. And at some point, you don't need the mid roll anymore. But
that's what I'm saying. The ones for a pity counter would be account bound. Like the only ones tradable are the aren't like the high roll, basically.
Out of sympathy for doing this meta 50,000 times, you can have one account bound.
Just have one. Just have what you deserve. You deserve it. You earned it.
Well, we're
maybe
also
not 50,000 times though.
If they could figure out a way to actually have your participation actually contribute to scaling a reward, like that would get rid of a lot of the annoying things like AFK farmers, where it's like if the more you contribute to a reward or to an event, the better rewards you get, or the better chances for higher rolls you get. I mean, one of the mobile games I'm playing right now, it like if you do more damage to something, you get a higher reward than somebody that still participated but got less damage. But I don't know if this game would be equipped at all to even be able to track that kind of stuff.
No, they technically have it in some way, which is like, you know, the XP participation, right? Bronze, silver, gold.
Yeah, but that scales so minutely.
Yeah, but
like you can auto attack through an event and still get max reward.
Yeah, they would have to rework that. I just don't know, like in terms of a developing issue, like if that is something that's difficult to rework or not, or they'd have to just do an entirely new system. But they could use that, right? If it was possible. I wouldn't mind that, right? Like that a way where if you did contribute in more sense, like either I don't know, you did hit the boss with a lot of I mean you dealt a lot of damage, or you let's say in Chalk Garrett in let's say like one of the lanes you actually participated in, like for example Ogre lane, you went and squashed the Chalk eggs, the poor Chalk eggs, or something like that. And or the only issue with that though is like if a player kills it before you, then kind of messes things up though, wouldn't it? Right?
I don't want it to be like last person to get the strike gets the reward, like because I'm pretty sure that's how a lot of MMOs do it. Like you actually have to be the You have to be the
Or the first.
landing kill to get the reward for a lot of things. While with ANET or with Guild Wars 2, as long as you participate, you get the reward. But the problem is that a lot of people realize that I could just hit 1 in world events and get the exact same rewards as everybody else. There's no reason to do more except like, and then because you got like 50, 60 people there, a lot of people feel like, oh, if I do more, it doesn't really matter because there's so many people here. If everybody did more, you would kill the thing like insanely fast. Like, look at Teapot's streams when he's like trying to do like the world records for like open world metas and stuff like that. You can kill some of that stuff extremely fast, but you got to have like a lot of people on board with that. But if they gave some kind of incentive that if you contributed more, like there was a reason for you to try harder, then you got better stuff. Like that'd be something interesting that I would like it if they could put in there.
I think the way you would do this actually involves a little bit of toxicity. I think that events should just be a lot more tiered, right? Like in the same way that on strikes you get like bonus rewards if you kill them quicker.
Yeah.
I would do that with open world events. So, you know, that would be like everyone would get more if it dies a little bit quicker. You don't get rid of the leeching issue, but you definitely kind of make people probably want to do a little bit better so that you can get to that and contribute to that, you know, that golden chest or whatever. The problem with this is that if you have a map where you don't get gold, everyone's going to be insanely big mad. You can see this in Octovine, right? Like if the Octovine starts failing, oh dear, like map chat, it's not very friendly anymore, right? The anger starts to kick in at that stage.
So Rob, your issue about you can't make it depend on DPS, well, people forget for like raid groups and strike groups, if you go 10 DPS players and you have no boons, those DPS players aren't going to be doing a lot of damage. Like you actually would need supports to provide all the offensive boons and buffs that we have in the game to get that DPS. Unless you're one of those classes that can do that stuff on your own, like Power Chrono. Or Scrapper a little bit, or Firebrand, I guess.
I think like,
but yeah, it's just like people forget we need support players to get good damage.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Because in so Drizzlewood Coast has that in a sort of way where, yeah, if you're participating around the map, doing events, that somewhat gives you better chances to get more of the boxes where you can pick up and the material that currency they can pick up more of those materials from the vendors. With the HOT metas, it's kind of similar like that, right? You have your tier participation for each map. So they could try to rework it there where, like, yeah, I mean, the system is there where you slightly have better rewards in the tiers in the maps. So now they just maybe, like Teapot said, maybe add a couple more tiers, right? Not right now, it's just the tier. Like if you're tier 1, you got like this reward or a chance at the top loot. Tier 2, tier 3, etc. Right? So then maybe just add the steps above. So for open world, that would be fine. Yeah, those are kind of a good extra, I guess, incentive. So you're not walking out with like, oh, like I did Octovine, I did Tangle Depths, and I did Dragon Stand, and it really doesn't seem like I've made that much out of it unless I went and farmed every single crystallized catch, every single Noxus pod or something. Like, yeah, I mean, it would make it where you would somewhat at least, or even progressing the regular events, you are getting some sort of thing back up. The tiers would be a good way to do it.
Yeah. But like dry top.
In raids, put tiered rewards in raids, so the faster you do them, the better rewards.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, that would be good. I like the strike system, like the fact that you know, because like you could make them, you know, there's a lot of potential to make them a bit harder. I mean, I think a lot of groups struggle to get gold on Whisper of Jawmag, right? I think stuff like that's interesting.
Well, yeah, some of the tiers on strike seems a little weird because some of them are really easy to get gold, and some of them are like, hey, the teams actually has to be relatively decent to actually make gold, but. Or if they added a platinum material, I don't know. But I think they actually need to do it so it's like if you finish it, like you killed it within the timer. You basically got bronze. You know, have it be like 3 minutes faster for silver. Have it be another, or whatever it is. But make gold actually a little bit difficult to do. That you actually have to try. Like you actually have to be a little bit of a tryhard to actually get
impactful.
That.
Yeah, make it more impactful too. Like that's the issue. Like the strike mission idea is really cool, but it's not really a big deal, so people don't care about it that much. If you want to really bait people into thinking about how they play the game and getting better at the game, then you have to make it a bit more impactful. I guess the problem is that Arena don't want to create this market for saying like gold only big pumpers only in this strike mission group, right? But I think that you're going to have to, in some way, find a balance between these two things. Like, I think ArenaNet is a little bit on copium on this. They're a little bit asleep. They need to realize that players are going to always try to stratify themselves. They're always going to try to say, right, who's good, who's bad. I want to play with the good people. I don't want to play with the bad people. This is inevitable, right? I mean, you can see it with kill proof. You see it with people making static groups, right? With all the things that people do, right? To set DPS meters, whatever, right? Players are always going to do this. There's no way out of it. I don't even think it's worth trying to minimize it. I think in some ways minimizing it or trying to with in-game systems makes it worse. I think that not having a good metric on how good a player is or how experienced they are is one of the reasons why you get so much toxicity around stuff like kill proof and raids, because there's no actual way provided in by the game to determine how good someone is, and without that system the players make their own, and it's kind of a crappy system that doesn't work very well and leads to some toxicity, right? So I think that ANET should just give up, move over,
just need to accept
embrace
the fact that
embrace
people are
it,
going to
accept
do
it.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah, they just
accept
need to
the
accept that people are
reality
gonna do it.
and just go. It's the only way.
I mean, with the strikes, I mean, these ones weren't a bad idea, right? In terms of trying, okay, here's content that can, sort of introduce you into what you would kind of expect in the raid, right? You got a couple of mechanics you gotta take care of, and also find out your positioning as a player. Like, like in Bone Skinner, it's literally, that strike is literally tailored to teach you about being aware of your positioning, right? Same with Whisper, with where you're at with the chain. And the gold, bronze, and silver, I mean, honestly, the idea is there. It's right there. And then they have mentioned that the new strikes are somewhat, they have to be as difficult as the raid bosses, right? That's what they put it as. They will be as difficult.
But which raid boss are they comparing it to?
I mean, we have nothing to go on just yet, but I mean, if they are aiming for bite-sized content, right, and that is going to be the way we go with it, at least for the time being. I mean, we have 4, right? We'll see at the release day. I mean, how hard is it to get cleared? Someone will have the clear world first or something, right? All that shenanigan. But the system in place, it's there for the rewards incentive. Gold, bronze, silver, it's right there to use. Could it be implied in other, or used in other contexts of the game, like open world, other instance? A bit difficult to do. That would mean changing everything now that they, entire reward structure. But in the open world, I'd love to see maybe that implemented.
I don't think it is that hard to implement, because if we're thinking on some specific map mechanics pertaining to just doing events, for example, in Silver Wastes, if you complete an event, you get that 30% Magic Find boost. How about you would get either stat increases or Magic Find increase, or something that's like seemingly harmless from being gold versus being silver versus being bronze. Let's say for each event you do on a map you're farming on, you get bronze on an event, you get like 1% or 5% extra Magic Find, etc., etc. Like it goes up with the kind of reward you got or participation you got on the event. Like something that's relatively harmless, not more rewards, but like a boost to your stat or a boost to your Magic Find. Because this way you have a sense of accomplishment from getting gold. You know you're going to hit that higher loot table on the next drop you're going to get. So you get that little bit of adrenaline pump. You will want to get it.
It's coming.
We all know it's fucking useless, but let's go still. Right, more Magic Find, better loot. Yes.
Yes, actually, let me use more luck. Actually, I would like that.
Yeah, you need more luck, Enko. You already showed us that you're not very lucky,
Magic Find
man.
cap. I want Magic Find cap 500%. Let's go.
Remove the cap completely. Just make every percentage take even more and more Magic Find, or more and more luck to use.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
That would be pretty fun. Yeah.
Like at one point, it will take like 1 billion luck.
Yeah, I'm like.
Yeah, I mean,
just remove the cap
cool.
completely.
I'd
Just
like
let
that.
it scale ridiculously. That's all.
look,
I think there is stuff to do around loot tables and magic find rework as well, and could be a source to like make events rewarding, make you want to get gold, etc. Like there is something to be done.
Yeah, give us precursors, man. Like I've never gotten a precursor off of an event.
I wish I could.
I've never actually gotten anything. Anyway,
I've only gotten 3 precursors as drops the entire game. So
yeah, but I mean, either way,
That's still more than me.
either way,
37,000 hours, Sam. 37,000 freaking hours.
I'm at 16 or 17k.
30,007 hours.
30.
Wait, is that on one account or across all
This
accounts?
is my main.
you've
That's
played?
juicy.
I've only gotten 3 precursors.
Actually, we're
And
on the
last time
proper
I got
rate
a
because on
precursor was,
I'm pretty
like,
sure if I
fractals from, like,
combine
4 precursors.
the alts that I have, I probably don't even reach 15,000 hours. Yeah, that's not even half of
I mean,
yours.
it's still quite a lot of hours, though.
Yeah, it's still quite a lot, honestly. I made my worth in the game. I'm good, you know. $50, well worth the money.
Oh yeah, definitely.
100%,
$14,000 on this game, definitely well worth it. I've gotten plenty of hours in on how much I spent.
But yeah, anyway, either way, is the reward changes that bad? I mean, I would love to see maybe
We'll
an
adapt.
improvement. I mean, I would really love to see that these kind of ideas implemented. Like, to me, honestly, the incentives in terms of leaderboards, rewarding for leaderboards, like the fractal stuff, having resets on your levels, you know, adding incentives in the leaderboards in PvP and WW, or adding more, I guess, in those senses. To me, that would be a sense of very different from what you'd used to expect, at least in the game. And having these ideas where you have maybe tiered progression in the map, sure, I think that's also a okay the change. But again, whatever they do in that sense, even if all these ideas are implemented, they still need to create sinks for these ideas. It doesn't matter how much they add in terms of reward incentive. If the sink is not there, then the item over a couple of months will get decimated in price value. And that's just the end game issue with this whole topic, right? It's very hard to balance in an economy that managed to control the inflation very well, but then because of that, it sacrifices reward content. So overall, if there was one method to go, I would seriously consider the gold, silver, and bronze tiers that Strikes has, because having all of these tiers for all the open world ideas, we suggested the account-bound vendor options for some of the very tough RNG items to get, having leaderboard structures, all of this is fun and cool to theorize about, but it's just very difficult because now they have to counterbalance that in some form or shape, right? So if there was to be a simplified approach, have just one thing that could maybe make things easier, go with the system that's already in place in Strikes, something that, it's there, gold, silver, bronze, and try and use that as a way as stepping stones to get into those tiered items. Maybe make it a little bit more incentivized, maybe make it a bit more challenging. I do agree. I think that to me, that's the way to go. That's the way to maybe pick one reward incentive or one way to start looking at rewards for the next foreseeable future. If you can't have it all, I think that's a pretty fine one to take and go with it.
Yep.
If you guys
I like that.
The conclusion, that was perfect.
Yeah, that was a big wrap up there.
I mean,
And then bringing it all together. He's the glue. He's the glue that sticks it all together.
You got one way.
He joins us.
Only one way to do it. So I mean,
One way.
That's my take. If you guys have another suggestion, your final thing that you want to say, your final thoughts on what kind of rewards, I'm going to stick with that. Gold, silver, bronze. That's the way I think, right? I would love to see the leaderboards, but you have to be realistic here. So that's my take.
Yeah. I think you did a really good job of bringing it together there. I think that a unifying system across as many game modes as possible. I don't know. This might. I was going to say it would maybe a little bit sweaty, but I think it would be really interesting to have like gold, silver, and bronze completion times for fractals as well. Like you could even do that. You could add that to dungeon. You could add it to everything. Everything could have.
Strikes,
you could have,
open world metas,
raid wings, raid bosses. You could have like time for clearing a raid wing, time for clearing a specific raid boss. You could have it all there. It would be crazy. I think stuff like that really makes it interesting, and I think it pushes players to improve it with a very, just direct reward. So I think concepts and ideas like this are great, and then leaderboards are very, I think, great motivation for the high end too, because the rewards can help players as they're progressing through and kind of learning the game mode and getting better. It can be that incentive to improve. And when that kind of dissipates, because you've got good, you made it to the end of the game, then bam, then you've got the leaderboard, right? Fastest kill times, fastest official clear times within a patch, right? Within a season or whatever we're going to define this as, right? Yeah, I think ideas like this and concepts like that are definitely would be a really big improvement to the way rewards are in the game right now, because I think a lot of the time it falls a little bit flat, to be honest. It's one of those things. Actually, we had this conversation a very long time ago when we were talking about daily gold farming, and we were like, what are all the things that you should do daily? And you kind of run out, right? Like you run out of really special, cool things that you can do every day, right? With in the game, relatively, it's like fractals. And then after that, it's like, oh, okay, all right, interesting. Not really that much else that you can really do that's like super special, super cool, super high performance, right? It just comes down to basically just like farming and grinding, right? Which is weird considering that Guild Wars 2 is supposed to be the anti-MMO. So I think kind of making everything very, very competitive and potentially more interactive with the way it rewards you, I think is really good and will be a massive improvement. That's my conclusion.
I would also remove time gates on rewards.
Ooh.
So you want to do 10 fractal CM sets a day?
Hell yeah.
Go ahead and do 10 fractal CM sets a day. If they do that, then yes, they definitely would have needed to take the Mystic Coins out. I'm get the rewards in a different way, but have the drops be the same, like every time you do it, and with raids, and with dungeons.
Sam the man, Baron of the people. I see you.
I don't know, man. But like, yeah, I would disagree with that, because the time gate is needed to try and keep some balance between like play times and player engagement, and that's a very important metric. You can't just remove all time gates, otherwise you're gonna have most of the people who can't do as much who are gonna be mad, and that's the people you don't want mad. Either way, I'm still gonna be full devil's advocate. I mean, for the entirety of the podcast, I said stuff that I don't vibe with, but that's cool because we needed some debate. Some stuff that I said I don't believe in, but debate is important. So I said some stuff just for the sake of it. Still, I completely agree with the whole idea of leaderboards and different tiers of rewards. We just need to make sure that these tiers of rewards are meaningful to the players and are balanced by something else in the economy or sync or something that they will be used towards, so that we don't just clog the game up and make these rewards meaningless. Because what players don't... Whoa, I went full French there, oh my god! What players want is not a reward, it's something meaningful for the time they have invested. Like, you could give them something that's not gold, you could give them something that's not a skin, as long as they feel that it is meaningful for the time invested in playing the game, they will like it. That's all. So, just something meaningful, and that's also something that players could maybe chime in a bit. Maybe we could have some votes, maybe we could have something that players can help design.
Actually, like,
listening to
actually
players?
But people want meaning.
What?
What?
I don't know.
Come again, Enko. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Ain't it actually listening to the players? That'd be interesting.
I mean, Enko.
What are you trying to
It's
say?
called a revolution, and we Frenchies are professionals at it.
I would actually say that most players' inputs are actually garbage.
Dismissed.
Like, people ask what will benefit themselves and them and only, but not the game as a whole. But I do think that there are some people in the game that ANET could get input from that would actually develop good systems and that would satisfy the player base, but would also not break the economy, break the game, and like basically destroy the thing. Like, if you this is one of the reasons why direct democracy doesn't work. Like, if every single person had a say in how something's done, it would be chaos. And if you actually just go through the Reddit, a lot of the suggestions that a lot of players have, if you actually let them run to fruition, would not be good for the game.
I mean, at the end of the day, one person leading the ship is better. You know, the expression was it too many cooks ruins the dish or something like that. And so, you know, as much as it is cool to have a lot of, you know, different takes, different suggestions and things like that, you know, that mixing all of that together is just, yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. Probably make the game even,
I mean,
way
there's
worse
a
than
balance.
actually improve it, right? So,
I would say that's what the ANIT program but the partner program should have been. But
Maybe.
let's not get into
But
that.
that-
Because that's a sore topic.
That,
That's
we're gonna
maybe
need
a
some more
podcast
hours of debate,
for-
my man.
No, that's a podcast for another time. Also, we've had that discussion on almost every Barons
So
Club
many
podcast
times.
here. let's try and go one without that kind of discussion. But anyway,
And then for partner,
I like that. You know what? That's
MM
fine.
for partner though, yeah.
keep that
MM
in.
for partner.
All right, we'll keep that in. All right. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I like that. We had a really good... I actually like this discussion because for the most part, you know, there was a lot of... and I like that we actually addressed the emotion part and, you know, just why, seeing perspective of the other side. But more importantly, actually getting to the nitty-gritty, the reward changes, and just I mean, the conversation showed just how many different takes we've had between each other and the suggestions. We've had a bit of a unified front there towards the end, which I like. But at the end of the day, we'll see how it goes with End of Dragons. I could definitely see something where they could maybe, hopefully, take a look at some of the things and find a way to just find that soft spot where they can use that as a way to pretty much put it in all the game modes and kind of standardize things to make it easier, more streamlined, more rewards for the content that you do. Again, there'll always be like a balance for that, but a pretty good discussion. I feel like we'll probably having this podcast again after End of Dragons, so I'd love to see how we do after the expansion comes
Probably
out.
next
And-
year as well.
yeah, and
let
probably,
me get home first.
get home safely. And yeah, maybe we'll see if we get proven wrong, and then it just slaps us and tells us, yeah, you're wrong. All four of you are wrong. But anyway, it's been a pleasure. I think we'll meet up at some point. Enko will get home at some point in the next month or so.
That sounds horribly wrong out of context.
I mean, yeah, if you don't watch
Enko
it-
will get home at some point.
just for legal reasons,
Hey,
he's
alright.
in deployment, and you know he's
I-
expected to come home soon. So
I leave this base in 25 days. I cannot wait.
Enko, I'm so sad you didn't
Oh
visit
my
us.
gosh.
You're missing out on all the riots. It's happening now. Man.
We had
Shame.
stuff to deal with down on the continent, like while I was here. So
Yeah, because Frenchies are leaving it. That's... Sorry.
it actually is the French. Actually is the French down here that we have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, we're disengaging.
wow.
Pro
Okay.
moves.
Anyway,
Oh well, I'm not in
that's the story
Ukraine
for
right now, so
another
that's
time.
good.
Anyway, well.
Yeah, man, I wouldn't wish that upon
We're
anyone.
not having that discussion here. No. Gotta
Yeah,
stop.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
We can
We
move
hold,
on. Anyway,
we
all right,
hold.
chat. That's it. If you have any questions, you can refer to all the current people. Their links will be in the description below. You can follow them. You can follow Enko before he even gets home. You can go follow him on Twitch. You can go follow Sam, Baron of the People. You can go follow MightyTeapot, Baron of the Alt accounts. And there you have it. That's the Barons Club podcast. I will probably be raiding someone. Which you probably go. Do you go out live now? Maybe.
Yeah, I'll go live now. Yeah, I
Go
can.
live
I can
now. We all right. The discussion continues
Wow.
there. Maybe we'll even join him on his Discord there, and the discussion is never ending. But anyway, we'll see you next time.
Eternal.
Yeah, it's an eternal discussion. We'll somehow rotate this back again to MCs and fractals, and it will just never stop. Oh, there you go. He goes away already.
Buy Mystic Coins, buy Ectos.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm
Teapot
green.
just went
I'm
full green.
I'm green now.
Teapot has unlocked infusions IRL. Oh my god, that's a polar
Yeah.
refractors.
Look at me go.
That's
Green
fine.
gaming.
Nice.
Now I'm getting keyed out on the stream. I've morphed into the background. I like that. That's good.
Ah, yeah, nice. You're one with the background right now. You're in the Barons Club podcast itself, even better than us.
Yeah,
all right, chat.
That's
That's the socials. Go follow me on my
Oh.
socials, right? I have somewhat of guides, podcasts, hopefully more podcasts soon, TM. I think we will revive the podcast once Enko actually is free. We'll have more discussions, economy-wise, or even maybe outside of the economy. We'll see. Follow me on the socials. Their socials will be included. But until then, chat, I think that's it. We'll see you when we see you. And yeah, let's go raid MightyTeapot. I will see you guys, not tomorrow, because I don't stream tomorrow. I will stream on Tuesday. And you'll see this episode up on YouTube tomorrow. So catch it on YouTube. Tell your friends about it. Tell them to subscribe. Follow me here. Follow me on YouTube, because I have a goal. 20,000 subs on YouTube, 22,000 followers on Twitch. So help me get there. Until then.
That's a beautiful goal.
Yeah, that's a nice goal. I think it's realistic if I put in the work. We'll see. Anyway,
just give away 100 legendaries, follower chat only, and then you'll do it.
Okay, now, no calling shots here, please, sir.
That one was free.
Doesn't go like shots. It'll work. What are you talking about? That'll work.
Yeah, it will work. It will work.
All right. Well, anyway, we're rating Teapot. See you guys. Love you all, and I will see you when I see you. Take care. I'll see you on Tuesday. Follow the stream. Subscribe to the socials everywhere. The podcast will be up on YouTube tomorrow. Take care, everybody. And
insane.
Yeah, go tell Teapot to give you all Mystic Coins, because he owes you all Mystic Coins. Go tell him that right now.
Hey, you've got my Mystic Coins, mate. You and Souls have got all of them. You have to hand them over.
Yeah.
Wait, did you harvest the accounts?
I think the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's juicy. I think we're done 80 accounts. There's some more coming though. Nice.
I actually
What would
I
you
put
do
a tweet
if
out
Ened
the other day. It was like
took away
just
the Mystic
another day
Coins?
in the office, and it was like 18K worth of gold. Nice. Love to see it. Just another day.
It's pretty tasty.
What would
Not too
you
bad, not too
do
bad.
if ANET changed the login rewards though? It took away.
I'd
the
be
Mystic
pretty
Coin.
sad. I mean, at least I wouldn't have to do the harvest anymore, I guess. But it would be unfortunate. Some good money.
See ya.
man.
We're gone. We're gone. See you. Go annoy him. Go ask him for Mr. Coins. Yeah, take all the money. Bye.